Chapter 373. The first round, Kong Ming knew that he'd be humiliated if he kept this up. There were a lot of onlookers already, and they could prove that Lin Yi didn't hit Zhu Xiaozhong. It was hard to say how Zhu Xiaozhong's face got swollen. Kong Ming suspected that Lin Yi was behind this, but he couldn't do anything without evidence. If Lin Yi didn't know Li Yixuan, it'd be easier. He could just find an excuse and let the security take him away. But Lin Yi knew Li Yixuan, and from the looks of it, they were close. Lin Yi, right? I'll remember you. Kong Ming glared at Lin Yi, then at Kong Xiaobo and Lan Fun. You're standing up for them, aren't you? I hope you don't regret this. Some people have done things they shouldn't. I wonder if they regret it now? Lin Yi smiled, not taking Kong Ming's threat to heart. Let's go. Kong Xiaoming waved his hand and left with Zhu Xiaozhong and Wang Shubin. They walked towards the banquet hall unwillingly. Kong Xiaobo really wanted to wave his hands and shout, "Long live the king," 3 times. He thought that today's meeting with Kong Ming would be difficult, full of humiliation and helplessness. Kong Xiaobo was prepared to endure everything. After all, this was Kong Ming's turf, and he wasn't Kong Ming's opponent. He knew that the weak couldn't win against the strong. But he didn't expect that in the first round of battle with Kong Ming, his side would gain the upper hand. Kong Ming had to suffer in silence, and he left with his tail between his legs. Xiao Fun, did you see boss's power? With him around, we won't suffer any losses, Kong Xiaobo firmly said as he held onto Xiao Fun's hand. And Xiao Fun had completely given up on Kong Ming. When she saw Kong Ming's ugly face, Xiao Fun felt a sense of relief. She felt that it wasn't worth it for her to be so haggard all these years. She felt that her actions of jumping off the building were laughable. How could she have fallen in love with such a cruel and unscrupulous person? At this moment, Xiao Fun had walked out of the shadow in her heart. She could face her life bravely in the future. Because Kong Ming wasn't worth her sacrifice, she could only pretend that she was blind. Seeing the smile on Xiao Fun's face, Kong Xiaobo let out a breath of relief. Tang Yun was also happy for her. Xiao Fun, have you thought it through? Yes, I've thought it through. I was too stupid in the past. Xiao Fun shook her head in self-mockery. This kind of person? How can I like this kind of person? I should cherish what I have now. As she spoke, Xiao Fun held on to Kong Xiaobo's hand even tighter. Kong Xiaobo was instantly excited. In the past, although he and Xiao Fun had feelings for each other, and they both acknowledged their relationship, Kong Xiaobo knew that there was always a shadow in Xiao Fun's heart, and that was Kong Ming. If he didn't get over this, he would always be Kong Ming's substitute. This made Kong Xiaobo very uncomfortable. And it was also the reason why he insisted on bringing Xiao Fun to see Kong Ming. But at this moment, Kong Xiaobo knew that Xiao Fun had already confessed to him and expressed her feelings. How could Kong Xiaobo not be excited? Young Master Lin, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Call me if there's anything. Li Yixuan saw that there was nothing else for him to do, so he nodded to Lin Yi and said politely. Lin Yi nodded. Sorry to trouble you, Brother Li. Li Yixuan gestured that it was nothing and left on the electric scooter. Lin Yi, Tang Yun, Kong Xiaobo, and Xiao Fun walked into the banquet hall, and the crowd followed them. Among these people, there were people who knew Kong Xiaobo and Kong Ming and knew that they were cousins. They only treated the conflict between the younger generation of the Kong family as a joke. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet was a Western-style buffet. Kong Xiaobo brought Lin Yi to a corner of the banquet hall. Actually, the purpose of this time was achieved. Xiao Fun saw Kong Ming's true colors and let her walk out of the shadow in her heart, allowing her to have a new life. After entering the banquet hall, Xiao Fun's mood was a little down. She must have been affected by the previous incident. Although she was completely disappointed in Kong Ming, anyone who encountered such an incident would feel bad, especially after being stupid for so many years, persevering for so many years, and in the end, it was all for naught. Anyone would feel uncomfortable. Tang Yun persuaded Xiao Fun softly, but this kind of thing didn't need anyone to persuade her. She would be fine after a few days. Boss, since we're here, it's not good for us to leave immediately. But after the younger generation celebrates the birthday, we can leave directly. I don't want to stay here for another minute. Kong Xiaobo was extremely disgusted with Kong Mingming's face. Is that person your father? Lin Yi didn't answer Kong Xiaobo's question. Instead, he pointed at a middle-aged man not far away. Beside him was Kong Mingming, who was gesticulating and saying something. It's my dad, but what is Kong Mingming doing? Kong Xiaobo was stunned. He didn't understand why Kong Mingming went to look for his father. Could it be that he went to complain? Kong Mingming couldn't be such a coward, right? After being humiliated at the entrance, he went to complain to the adults? I'm guessing that it's about Xiao Fun. Lin Yi frowned. I didn't expect Kong Mingming to be so mean. He actually went to your dad and said bad things about Xiao Fun. Fuck his 18 generations of ancestors. Kong Xiaobo was furious. If what Lin Yi said was true, then wasn't Kong Mingming a little too despicable? His 18 generations of ancestors. Isn't it your 18 generations of ancestors? Lin Yi smiled. Actually, it's nothing. You should think about it. You'll have to tell your parents about this matter sooner or later. After he said this, you can tell your parents about Xiao Fun's experience. I think they aren't unreasonable people. Lin Yi saw that Kong Xiaobo's father was a good person. Although he wanted to save some face, he wasn't a cold-hearted bad person. As long as he was reasonable and moved by his emotions, it wouldn't be difficult for him to accept Xiao Fun. Really, Kong Xiaobo heard Lin Yi's words and was overjoyed. Bro, you aren't lying to me, right? Why would I lie to you? Lin Yi shook his head. If it doesn't work, I can help you. Lin Yi's understanding of people's hearts was very accurate. He could help Kong Xiaobo. Chapter 374. Too bad it's fake. As expected, Kong Xiaobo's father frowned as he looked at Kong Xiaobo's side. He couldn't help but frown when he saw the 2 boys and 2 girls. He didn't think too much about it before. It was normal for his son to bring his classmates to the banquet, but 2 boys and 2 girls? That was a little too obvious. Kung Fu also suspected that there were 2 couples after hearing Kong Mingming's words. Did his son learn bad things? But Mr. Kong couldn't ask Xiaobo about it in front of everyone, and he knew that his nephew wasn't doing this out of goodwill. He tried so hard to stop Xiaobo and his classmate from staying at the hotel, after all, and there had to be some sort of grudge between them. It seemed that the grudge was with the girl beside his son. As for the girl shamelessly seducing this and that, Kung Fu was skeptical. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet officially started at 10 in the morning, and Lin Yi saw a few familiar faces. There was Lu Tianyi and Guan Xiumin, both of them sitting at a table and chatting. Dr. Kang's eldest son, the current head of Dr. Kang's group, Kong Guifeng, was also sitting at their table, chatting with the 2 of them. Lin Yi didn't go over to greet them. He hid in the corner, waiting for the banquet to start. Kong Xiaobo gave his gift and left. It seemed that after he created the Miracle Dr. Guan brand, it was inevitable that he would become Dr. Kang's competitor. He didn't have to worry about anything anymore. Judging from Kong Xiaobo's current situation, there was no way he could get back together with Kong Mingming's family. At least not with Xiaofan around. Amidst the impassioned speech of the MC and the applause of the guests, Dr. Kong slowly walked out. This was an old man with a rather dignified appearance. He was dressed in a red Han costume and had the temperament of an ancient Chinese medicine practitioner. Although it was a little speechless to become a leading enterprise in the domestic pharmaceutical industry, because of a magical prescription, it was undeniable that Dr. Kang's golden creation did have a magical effect. Of course, many old people in the medical field didn't care much about Dr. Kong, because in their opinion, Dr. Kong couldn't be called a miracle doctor at all. They didn't know where he got a good prescription from, which made him the Dr. Kong of today. Looking at the other medicines produced by his company, they were nothing more than common medicines for common colds, headaches, and fever. The formulas were all open to the public, and there was nothing special about them. If it weren't for his golden creation medicine's reputation, he might not even be able to sell his home medicine. But he was lucky. With the red medicine, no matter what he produced later on, even if it was a normal medicine, it would still sell well. That was why he was able to create such a colossus like Dr. Kang's medical group in a short period of time. In fact, Many people knew that Dr. Kang's medical skills weren't great. Thank you, guests, for coming to Dr. Kang's 62nd birthday. Next, we will send our blessings from Dr. Kang's descendants. The MC started the first procedure of the birthday banquet, which was to let the descendants present their gifts. After the descendants had presented their gifts, it would be the turn of the famous people in the society and Dr. Kang's friends. As for the others, they wouldn't have the chance to present their gifts on stage and could only place their gifts at the registration counter at the entrance. The first to go on stage was Dr. Kang's eldest son, Kang Guifeng. He walked up the stage with his head held high, holding a red brocade box in his hand. The packaging was exquisite. "Dad, I'm giving you a 100-year Tianshan snow lotus." His eldest son, Kang Guifeng, presented the brocade box with both hands and said respectfully, "I wish Dad a long and healthy life." "Good, very good. Bring it over and let me have a look." Dr. Kang ordered the MC. The MC quickly presented the brocade box to Dr. Kang. He opened it, and there was indeed a 100-year Tianshan snow lotus in it. Looking at its size, even if it wasn't a 100-year Tianshan snow lotus, it was at least 70 or 80 years old. Wow, everyone was excited. As expected of a family of miracle doctors, even their birthday gifts were rare treasures. After the eldest son, Kang Guifeng, left the stage, it was his youngest son, Kang Tsupu, who presented his gift. He was holding a similar brocade box in his hand. It was incomparably beautiful. "Dad, I'm giving you a 1,000-year ginseng. It has already begun to take human form. This is a wild ginseng that I've sent people to search the mountains for 3 years and 3 months." Kang Tsupu presented the brocade box with both hands and said respectfully, "I wish Dad a long and happy life." "Good, good, good." Dr. Kang said good 3 times in a row. He gestured to the MC and said, "Let me have a look. I want to see what a 1,000-year ginseng looks like." His eldest son, Kang Guifeng, presented a 100-year Tianshan snow lotus. It was already rare, but this 1,000-year ginseng was even rarer. How could Dr. Kang not be excited? The MC quickly presented the brocade box to Dr. Kang. Dr. Kang opened the brocade box, and there was indeed a huge ginseng inside. It had already grown into human form. Although he didn't know if it was a 1,000-year ginseng, it was indeed a rare treasure. All the guests gasped as they looked at the ginseng in Miracle Dr. Kang's hands enviously, congratulating him nonstop. "Your uncle really knows how to curry favor. He gave me a ginseng, but it's fake. It seems like he's the same as that Kang Ming, a master of swindling people." Lin Yi's voice wasn't loud. He was only talking to Kang Xiaobo, Tang Yun, and Xiaofan. However, the guests nearby heard it. "Fake? Is it real?" The guests nearby heard Lin Yi's words and were in an uproar. They couldn't help but look at Lin Yi. If these people didn't pay attention, things would have been fine. But the noise was heard by Kang Tsupu, and he looked at Lin Yi's direction with a cold, unfriendly gaze. However, Kang Tsupu didn't say anything. He signaled his son, Kang Mingming. Kang Mingming immediately jumped out and pointed at Lin. "Where did this guy come from? What fake? How can this ginseng be fake?" Seeing Kang Mingming jump out in such a hurry, Lin Yi smiled faintly. Since it's artificially cultivated, it's naturally fake. Not to mention a 1,000-year ginseng, it's not even 10 years old. Lin Yi didn't want to interfere with Kang Xiaobo's family matters. However, this Kang Mingming was too despicable. Lin Yi didn't mind mocking him a bit. He wanted to embarrass him and his father. "Guards, throw him out for me. How dare he cause trouble at Grandpa's birthday banquet?" Kang Mingming roared angrily. The security guard in the banquet hall knew about the relationship between Lin Yi and Li Yixuan. Although they heard Kang Mingming's order, they didn't dare to make a move. Chapter 375. How embarrassing. Although he didn't know much about ginseng, he didn't really trust his youngest son. His youngest son never did proper work, never went to the company, and used the dividends from the shares to eat, drink, and gamble. His grandson was just like him. What kind of 1,000-year-old ginseng could he dig up? Even Dr. Kang himself didn't believe it. But whether it was real or fake, This was his son's sincerity. Even if it was fake, he couldn't show it in front of outsiders. If there was anything, it should be discussed behind closed doors. Now, that an outsider like Lin, he had said it out loud, Dr. Kong felt like he had lost a lot of face. "Kid, why do you say this ginseng is fake?" Although Dr. Kang's voice was a little angry, he still maintained a calm demeanor. "If you're just spouting nonsense, then apologize, and I'll pretend I didn't hear it. But if you don't, then I'm sorry, we don't welcome you here." Dr. Kang's words were reasonable, and no one could find fault with them. Instead, they felt that he was very magnanimous. Lin Yi had embarrassed them like this, and Dr. Kong only wanted Lin Yi to apologize. Lin Yi didn't expect these people to have such a big reaction. Even the old Dr. Kong had jumped out. It seemed that if he didn't say a few words, he would implicate Kong Xiaobo. Lin Yi could only stand up and explain helplessly. Wild ginseng have a long reed head and dense reed bowls. The ginseng body is the same length as the root. It has a human shape and a horizontal body. The horizontal lines on the main root are fine and clear. The color is darker, and the skin is thin and tough. There are many obvious pearl bumps. The cultivated ginseng is called garden ginseng. It has a short reed head and few reed bowls. The ginseng body is cylindrical, and the horizontal lines on the main root are sparse and discontinuous. The skin is thick and brittle, and the pearl bumps are not obvious. As for the authenticity of this ginseng, I think there should be experts in this field. Dr. Kong doesn't know, but there should be someone who knows, right? Lin Yi's words were very hurtful. It was obvious that he was mocking Dr. Kong for not knowing how to differentiate between real and fake ginseng. How could he be called a divine doctor? Dr. Kang's face changed. He didn't expect Lin Yi's words to be so logical. He thought that Lin Yi was just talking nonsense. He stood up and said something to give him a way out. But now, Dr. Kong was in a dilemma. "Nonsense." Kong Ming Ming jumped out again. "Grandpa, don't listen to this guy's nonsense. He was sent here by Kong Xiaobo to cause trouble. Let's put the ginseng away and ignore him." Kong Ming Ming's words obviously made people think that he had a guilty conscience. If the ginseng wasn't fake, he should take it out and let the experts here identify it. Why did he ask them to put it away? Kong Ming Ming did have a guilty conscience. This ginseng was bought with his father, Kong Tsupu. How could he not know whether it was real or fake? This ginseng was bought from an artificial farm. It only cost a few thousand yuan. How could it be 1,000-year-old ginseng? But Kong Tsupu and Kong Ming Ming both knew that their father didn't know whether the ginseng was real or fake. Kong Tsupu's brother, Kong Guifeng, also didn't know. Even if Kong Guifeng guessed that it was fake, he wouldn't lose face in front of others. Besides, Kong Tsupu only took the dividends in the company and didn't fight for power. This made Kong Guifeng have no resentment towards Kong Tsupu. The two brothers got along well. Kong Guifeng often cleaned up after Kong Tsupu's bad things. However, they didn't expect that Lin Yi would appear out of nowhere. "Forget it. Take it away. Whether it's real or fake, it's a gift from Tsupu." Dr. Kong was not stupid. Since Lin Yi said so, he must be confident. If he took it seriously, he would only humiliate himself. It was better to admit it generously. Anyway, others knew what kind of person his youngest son was. His reputation was already bad. It didn't matter if it was a little bit more. Dr. Kong admitted it so casually. It didn't cause any uproar. Since Dr. Kong said so, people didn't want to distinguish whether it was real or fake. Next was Kong Xiaobo's father. It was a very ordinary gift. It was just a few years old Ganoderma. Kong Tsupu and Kong Ming Ming had wanted to find fault with it, but it was just a few years old Ganoderma. You couldn't find any fault with a few years old Ganoderma. It wasn't a rare item in the first place. If they wanted to find fault with it, it would be like picking bones in an egg. Kong Tsupu and Kong Ming Ming didn't have a choice. They could only vent their anger on Kong Xiaobo later. The sons and grandsons had all given their gifts. Now it was the grandson's turn. But according to Dr. Kang's patriarchal mindset, only men were allowed to give gifts. Granddaughters couldn't go up. The first to go up was Kong Guifeng's son, Kong Xiaolong. This Kong Xiaolong looked older, around 20 years old. He wore glasses and looked like a gentleman. He held a document in his hand as he walked up steadily. "Grandpa, this is a research topic I researched during my PhD studies. I've already obtained a patent for it. This is a certificate from the school." Kong Xiaolong handed the certificate over respectfully. The MC was about to take it when Dr. Kong waved his hand and walked up himself. His face was flushed, the unhappiness from before gone. "Good, Xiaolong, good job. I'm very happy." With that, Miracle Dr. Kong took the certificate and looked at it with a smile. He patted Xiaolong's shoulder. "Work hard. You're the next generation Miracle Doctor of House Kong." Xiaolong nodded. "Wah wah." The audience applauded. Everyone knew that Miracle Dr. Kong was choosing his successor. "Is your eldest cousin a medical student?" He was a little surprised. He didn't expect Dr. Kang's family to have someone who studied medicine. "Yes, he graduated from a proper medical school and is currently studying for a PhD in traditional Chinese medicine," Kong Xiaobo introduced. "Actually, he's the only one who really knows medicine." It was a little ironic and funny, but it was the truth. He was speechless as well. Why did Miracle Dr. Kang's family seem to be so unorthodox? After that, it was Kong Xiaoming's turn. His gift was even more mysterious. He said it was some kind of ancient prescription. But with his father Kong Suepu's example, no one was curious anymore. It was obvious that it was fake. How could ancient prescriptions be so easily obtained? Chapter 376. I step even if Dr. Kong didn't know much about medicine. He'd read a lot of books in order not to be a laughingstock. How could such an ordinary prescription for typhoid be called an ancient prescription? What a wastrel! Dr. Kong sighed inwardly. Fortunately, Dr. Kong had his eldest son Kong Guifeng and grandson Xiaolong. At least the Kangs had a continuation, and they wouldn't fall after his death. At least until Xiaolong's generation. As for his great-grandchildren, they'd have their own destinies. Miracle Dr. Kong couldn't care less about what would happen after his death. Dr. Kong placed Kong Mingming's prescription under Xiaolong's certificate and nodded nonchalantly. "All right, whether or not this prescription works, it's still a token of Xiaoming's sincerity." After Kong Mingming left, it was Kong Xiaobo's turn to present his gift. When the MC called out Kong Xiaobo's name, Kong Xiaobo tensed up. "Boss, can I do it?" "Sure, why not? Just go." He patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder encouragingly. Kong Xiaobo nodded and walked up the stage with the antique box he had given him. "Second Grandpa, this is a rare pill called the Pill of Life Extension and Toxin Cleansing. After taking it, a large amount of impurities will be expelled from the body, cleansing the bones and marrow. After the toxins are expelled, the body's physiological functions will return to peak condition, and it'll add at least 5 to 10 years to your lifespan." Kong Xiaobo presented the box with both hands. "Happy birthday, Second Grandpa." "Oh." Dr. Kong frowned, displeased. As Dr. Kong, he was at the pinnacle of the medical world, and he'd never heard of something like the Pill of Life Extension and Toxin Cleansing. After eating it, it could even cleanse the marrow and reshape the bones. Could it really achieve the goal of prolonging one's life? Dr. Kong felt that if he accepted this elixir, he would lose face. As a Dr. Kong, did he still need this kind of elixir? Moreover, it sounded like an unreliable elixir. However, before Dr. Kong could speak, Kong Mingming jumped out and grabbed the small box in Kong Xiaobo's hand. Just as he was worrying about not being able to find a reason or excuse to attack Kong Xiaobo, this Kong Xiaobo actually took the initiative to come to him. "Kong Xiaobo, don't try to mystify us. The Pill of Life Extension and Toxin Cleansing? How could this be? Do you think you're a martial arts practitioner who sells strength pills?" Kong Xiaoming glared at him. "What kind of person is my grandpa?" "It's Dr. Kong. What medicine doesn't our family have? But I've never heard of such a thing in this world. There are many things you haven't heard of," Kong Xiaobo said coldly. "What kind of trash is this? Then I'll open it for everyone to see." When Kong Mingming heard that Kong Xiaobo still dared to argue, he was furious. "You won't shed a tear until you see your coffin, huh?" As he said that, Kong Mingming opened the small box in Kong Xiaobo's hands and took out a black elixir. He laughed loudly. What pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is this? It can even cleanse the marrow and reshape the bones? Have you read too many wuxia novels? Have you gone mad? Second grandpa, I've already given you my birthday gift. Since second cousin doesn't believe me, I can't do anything about it. Kong Xiaobo resisted the urge to turn hostile and spoke in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. What? Feeling guilty? When Kong Ming saw Kong Xiaobo's expression, he thought that he was feeling guilty. Kong Xiaobo, don't think that I don't know why you're here. Aren't you here to stand up for that bitch? She's trash that I've played with, and you're treating her like a treasure. You gave my grandfather a miraculous elixir that we've never heard of before. Aren't you trying to make a fool of our family? I know what you're thinking. You want people to see that our medical family hasn't seen this elixir before. That's what you're thinking, right? But you've miscalculated. My grandfather doesn't care for this trash of yours. As he said that, Kong Ming threw the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing on the ground and stomped on it. That wasn't enough. He even used the soles of his feet to grind it until it was a pile of sticky powder. All right, you've given your birthday gift. You may leave. Throughout the entire process, Dr. Kong didn't say a word. He just stood there with a dark expression. He had his suspicions. Forget Kong Xiaobo. Even his eldest son couldn't get such an elixir. So where did Kong Xiaobo get it from? It had to be fake. He could tolerate Kong Ming because Kong Ming was his own grandson. But he couldn't tolerate Kong Xiaobo. He felt that Kong Xiaobo was here to stir up trouble, especially after hearing his grandson, Kong Ming's words. So this cousin of his, Kong Xiaobo, was here to fight for a woman's affections. Nonsense. Dr. Kong snorted coldly. He looked at Kong Xiaobo's father. You've taught your son well. Why aren't you taking him away? Why are you leaving him here to embarrass yourself? Miracle Dr. Kong, on the other hand, didn't care about Kong Xiaoming's arrogant act of stepping on the pill. He didn't blame him, either. Clearly, he was protecting him. Xiaobo's father was quite furious. It wasn't very appropriate for his son to get some elixir as a gift, but Kong Xiaoming was the one who'd been causing trouble from the beginning. How was he supposed to embarrass his son? Xiaobo, were you bewitched by someone? Who gave you the divine expansion elixir? Apologize to your second grandpa now. Kung Fu reprimanded Kong Xiaobo. In order to give him a way out, he pushed the responsibility of the elixir to someone else. He meant that Kong Xiaobo was bewitched by someone else, and it had nothing to do with him. Impossible. How could the elixir given by Big Brother be fake? Someone was blind and didn't know what was good. Kong Xiaobo was also furious. He said stubbornly, "It's a pity that such a good thing was wasted." Kong Xiaobo trusted Lin Yi unconditionally. If Lin Yi said that it was an elixir, then he would naturally believe it was an elixir. Kong Xiaobo couldn't hold it in anymore. Now that even his father was blaming him, he finally exploded. Xiaobo, the gift is here. Some people call themselves divine doctors, but they're just quacks with bad eyesight. Lin Yi walked over with Tang Yun and Xiaofan and said to Kong Xiaobo, "This is our Kong family's matter. Who are you to say anything?" Dr. Kong was already furious when Lin Yi exposed the ginseng. He didn't hold back when he saw Lin Yi getting involved in his family's matter. Chapter 377. Being a supporting character, Mr. Lin, Lu Qianni couldn't believe his eyes. Lin Yi was at the banquet, and it seemed like he was on Kong Xiaobo's side. Lu Qianni made his decision without hesitation. He would stand on Lin Yi's side. He had to explain to Lin Yi that he was only attending Dr. Kang's birthday banquet as a show of respect. "Mr. Lin, why are you here? I'm so sorry I didn't see you earlier." Tianni took a few steps to Lin Yi's side and spoke respectfully, under everyone's shocked gazes. Lu Qianni didn't even need to think about the choice between Lin Yi and Dr. Kong to maximize the benefits of the Lu family. Especially after hearing that Lin Yi had the intention of launching the Miracle Dr. Guan brand with him, Lu Qianni was even more dismissive of Dr. Kong. "What kind of miracle doctor are you? All you have is a golden creation. Lin Yi is the miracle doctor." "Haha, I'm here with my classmate." Lin Yi shrugged and smiled. "Looks like some people aren't interested in my pills. I should have given them to you if I knew this would happen. Is that so? That's great. Anything else? Lu Tianyi was flattered by Lin Yi's words. He never doubted Lin Yi's pills. He'd even believed Lin Yi when he said he could bring the dead back to life. He'd seen his father's condition firsthand. He'd gone from an old man to a man in his prime. He'd even started a vegetable garden recently. Lu Tianyi was happy to see this change. Of course, the person he was most grateful for was Lin Yi. The 100 million was worth it. Looks like I have to continue befriending Lin Yi in the future. I don't have any at the moment. This was given to me by an expert. Lin Yi shook his head. If I have any, I'll give you one. All right. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Don't worry. I'm not the kind of person who takes things for free. As long as you have this kind of elixir, let alone 100 million, I'll even give you 200 million. Lu Tianyi said repeatedly. Although his father's body was fine, it was good to have an elixir at home. He wasn't young anymore. Maybe he could use it one day. Everyone present, including Dr. Kong, was dumbfounded by Lu Tianyi's words. The pill that was crushed by Kong Ming was worth 200 million yuan? Is it made of diamond? If these people didn't know Lu Tianyi and knew his identity, they might have thought that it was Kong Xiaobo who hired someone to help him fake the elixir. But who was Lu Tianyi? Did he need to help others fake the elixir? Besides, not to mention Kong Xiaobo, even Dr. Kong couldn't get Lu Tianyi to fake the elixir. Xiao Yi, why didn't you give me one of those elixirs? It's such a shame that it's ruined for no reason. Just when everyone was shocked, something even more shocking happened. Guan Shuimin stood up and walked over with a smile. He patted Lin Yi's shoulder. Dr. Kang's expression changed again. Could it be that the elixir was real? Otherwise, why would Guan Shuimin say that? Although Dr. Kong felt that Guan Shuimin didn't make as much money as him, Guan Shuimin's medical skills were better than his. Grandpa Guan, Mr. Lu, we're leaving. What about you guys? Lin Yi asked with a smile. I still have something to talk to you about. Of course, I'm going back with you. Guan Shuimin knew what Lin Yi meant. He smiled. After the medical company was built, he would have to fight with Dr. Kong for the market. He didn't care about his reputation. There's no point in staying here. Why don't we accompany Mr. Lin? Lu Tianyi expressed his loyalty. He knew how important a miracle doctor was to a family, and it was a miracle doctor who could bring the dying back to life. So Lu Tianyi had already put down his pride. What was the use of having more money and power in his hands? Wouldn't he lose everything if he died? But with a friend like Lin Yi, it was equivalent to having an exemption from death. Lu Tianyi wasn't stupid. Kong Xiaobo's father wanted to stand up and scold his son. What kind of friend did he find to mess around at the banquet? But at this moment, there was only excitement left in his heart. His son's classmate was so capable. House Lu's Lu Tianyi and Guan Shuimin were very friendly to him. This made Dr. Kang's reputation fall to the bottom. Lin Yi turned around and looked at Kong Xiaobo indifferently. If you're a man, hold Xiao Fun's hand and prove it to them. This was a good opportunity for Kong Xiaobo. If he forced him to acknowledge Xiao Fun as his girlfriend, then even if Kong Xiaobo's parents were unwilling, they couldn't do anything about it. Lin Yi had already set a good start for him. Now that everyone was on his side, if Kong Xiaobo held Xiao Fun's hand and announced something to Kong Ming, he wouldn't receive disdain from the crowd, but shock. Kong Xiaobo nodded and held Xiao Fun's hand. He puffed out his chest and looked at Kong Ming. Second cousin, I'll return the damage you've done to Xiao Fun one day. Who the hell are you? Don't think that just because your friend knows a few people, you're someone too. Kong Ming might be arrogant and despotic, but he wasn't an idiot. When he saw how Lu Tianyi and Guan Shuimin were chasing after the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, he knew that he was in trouble. That pill might really be the real deal. He didn't know where the brat beside Kong Xiaobo got it from, but no matter what, he still crushed it. Therefore, Kong Ming was obviously trying to be tough on the outside, afraid that others would blame him, so he shifted his target to Kong Xiaobo. Kong Xiaobo ignored him and turned to look at his second grandfather, saying with disappointment, Dr. Kong, I'm not worthy of you. Someone else gave you a fake ginseng and a fake prescription, and you happily accepted it. I sincerely gave you a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, but you treated it like trash. Haha, it's fine if I don't enter this house. After saying that, Kong Xiaobo held Xiao Fun's hand and walked out of the banquet hall. Lin Yi had already laid the groundwork for him. If Kong Xiaobo didn't have the courage to stand up and say these words, then he'd really be a coward. Lin Yi held Tang Yin's hand and followed behind Kong Xiaobo. Today, he appeared as a side character, and the main character was still Kong Xiaobo. Seeing Kong Xiaobo and Lin Yi's silhouettes getting smaller and smaller, Dr. Kong knew that today's banquet was destined to become a farce. Where's the pill? Dr. Kong wasn't in a good mood, so he could only vent his anger on Kong Ming. The pill. Kong Ming's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the spot where he'd stepped on the pill. Chapter 378. Meeting a fatty, however. Just as Lin Yi was about to walk out of the banquet hall, something unexpected happened again. Lin Yi had just reached the entrance of the banquet hall when Yixuan followed a middle-aged man into the hall in a hurry. The middle-aged man was the owner of Moon on the Sea, President Tian. He and Yixuan were supposed to celebrate Dr. Kang's birthday, and since they were holding a birthday banquet in his territory, he had to be there as the owner to give his blessings. But to his surprise, people were already leaving the banquet hall. Hadn't the banquet just started? The dishes hadn't even been served yet. So why were people leaving already? Just when Mr. Tian was confused, Li Yixuan reminded him in a small voice, "Mr. Tian, this is Mr. Lin." President Tian froze and looked at Lin Yi carefully. Sure enough, he was the same as the photo in the file. He hadn't noticed before, but after Yixuan's reminder, he immediately greeted him with a kind smile. "Young Master Lin, you're leaving?" "He, Uncle Tian, right?" Lin Yi saw him walk over with Yixuan and guessed who he was. "I'm just accompanying a classmate to his second grandpa's birthday banquet. I've already given him the gift, but he didn't like it, so there's no need for us to stay and embarrass ourselves." President Tian frowned. Young Master Lin's gift didn't catch his eye. Wasn't that suicidal? However, he didn't know if Lin Yi was on a mission or not, so he didn't dare say anything. He could only nod. "Do you need me to send someone to escort you?" "No need. We'll leave on our own." Lin Yi waved his hand and smiled. "All right, call me if there's anything. You can also look for Shaoli." President Tian nodded. The scene at the entrance was witnessed by all the guests, causing them to be even more shocked. President Tian of Moon on the Sea was a celebrity in the upper class of Donghai City, and yet he was so polite to Lin Yi. Who exactly was this Lin Yi? Was he a young master from a rich family? From the looks of it, it should be. Dr. Kong had the worst expression on his face. He had never expected that Kong Xiaobo's classmate would be someone with a high status. If he had known that Lin Yi was a rich second generation, he wouldn't have let Kong Ming crush the pill. The pills seemed to be real. Phew! After walking out of the banquet hall, Kong Xiaobo let out a long sigh and clenched his fists in excitement. "Boss, this is the first time I've felt so proud. Look at my second grandpa and Kong Ming's faces, they're all twisted. Right now, they were probably regretting to death that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had been crushed by Kong Ming. That idiot is going to be in trouble when he gets home." Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder. At the very least, Kong Xiaobo had taken the first step today, making him a man of indomitable spirit. Yeah, it's such a pity. If I'd known that Mr. Lin was the one who provided the pill, I'd have gone up to the stage and snatched it even if I'd been laughed at. Tianyi said regretfully. What a waste of a treasure. Xiaofan was worried that she would be humiliated by Kong Ming's family. But now, she understood that she could also stand on a high ground and look down on the Kong family. Just now, when Kong Xiaobo said those words in a cold voice, when he said that he wanted Kong Ming to return the harm he had done to her, Xiaofan was so emotional. As for Kong Ming, his eyes were flickering, and he didn't even dare to speak. "Thank you, Xiaobo." Xiaofan turned to look at Lin Yi. "Thank you, Xiaobo's boss. What's the point of saying all these?" Lin Yi waved his hand. "We're on the same side. Xiaobo, I'm going to give you a stage to show off. I'm going to let you stand at the same height as Dr. Kong. or even surpass him. Really? Kong Xiaobo was stunned, and his eyes shone with hope. He never doubted Lin Yi's words. This was just to express the surprise in his heart. Boss, thank you. Don't worry, I won't let you down. Just when Kong Xiaobo was extremely excited, a fatty ran out of the banquet hall, panting as he ran. As he ran, he said, "Little bro, wait. Little bro, wait for me." Linny looked at the panting fatty and was confused. "Who are you calling?" "I'm calling you, little bro." The fatty ran to Lin E and kneeled in front of Lin E. "Little bro, please sell me one of that pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. I'm willing to pay any price. 100 million? No, 500 million is fine too." Lin E was speechless as he looked at the fatty. Was there something wrong with this guy? Running out to buy a pill from him? Did he really believe it? "Little bro, I'm begging you." Seeing that Lin E wasn't answering, the fatty suddenly hugged Lin Yi's leg and started sobbing. "Sell me one. I'm willing to pay any price. As long as you're willing to sell it to me, you'll be Fatty Lie's savior. I'm begging you. I'm going to faint. Don't cry first." Lin E was a little dumbfounded. He wanted to move the fatty away and ignore him, but he didn't expect the guy to start crying like that, not to mention in such a heartbreaking manner. A grown man crying in front of him. Lin E really didn't know what to say. "Little bro, if you promise me, I'll stop crying." Fatty Lie woke up, snot dripping onto Lin Yi's pants. Lin E felt a chill run down his spine. "Then cry yourself to death." Lin E was speechless. "Then if I stop crying, you'll sell it to me?" Fatty Lie asked, quickly stopping his crying. "Old Lie, what are you doing? If you have something to say, just say it. Look at you making a fool out of yourself." Lu Tianyi spoke up. Evidently, he knew the fatty. "Old Lu, don't you feel pain in your back? You're so happy that your dad's cured, but my old man's still lying on the sickbed. Sob sob." Fatty Lie started sobbing again. "I told you to tell me the miracle doctor who treated your dad, but you kept it a secret. If I don't fight for it now, I'll lose my chance again. You old fox." Linny understood now. This guy had a sick dad too. He knew Lu Tianyi, and he knew that Lu Tianyi's dad was cured, so he paid attention to it. He might have asked Lu Tianyi before, but Lu Tianyi didn't dare tell anyone about him without his permission, so Fatty Lie still held a grudge against Lu Tianyi. Chapter 379. Grab rubbish, bro. I'm not crying anymore. Can you sell me one? Fatty Lie ignored Lu Tianyi and looked at Lin E while wiping his tears. "Not for sale." Lin E shook his head. "Why?" Sob sob. "Bro, I have money, I have money. I have money. Whatever that old fox Lu Tianyi can spend, I can too. I can spend even more than him." Fatty Lie cried again. Lin E was a little depressed. Why did this fatty love to cry so much? A crybaby? He helplessly explained, "I only have this one. I don't have any more now." "If that's the case, then when will you have it?" Fatty Lie's face turned dejected. "Just one? No more?" "I'm not sure." Linny didn't know Fatty Lie at all, so he wouldn't just give him a random pill. The few elixirs in his hands were meant to be given out when the company opened for business as a gift to boost the company's reputation. Of course, Lin E wouldn't waste them. Fatty Lie was a crybaby, and he seemed like a filial son, but there were too many filial crybabies out there. Every single one of them would run up to him with tears and snot all over their faces, asking for pills. Even if he didn't tire himself to death refining pills, he'd still be annoyed to death by them. Therefore, this precedent could not be broken. He would never give it to someone he wasn't familiar with. "Ah, I see, sob sob sob." Fatty Lie started bawling again when he heard Lin Yi's words. "Dr. Kong, that unfilial bastard. That bastard. What a waste of a heavenly gift. Motherfucker." Lin E sympathized with Fatty Lie's situation, but he couldn't just give him a pill out of sympathy. Could he? Lin E wasn't a charity organization, after all. At that moment, a cleaner walked over with a trash bag, ready to throw it into the trash can of the resort. Fatty Lie's eyes were sharp, and he recognized the cleaner right away. It was the one who cleaned the pill that Kong Xiaoming had crushed in the banquet hall. He jumped up from the ground and ran to the cleaner's side. "Don't throw it away, just give me the trash bag." The cleaner was startled and was at a loss of what to do. She looked at the fatty, whose face was still full of tears and horror. You, what do you want? Fatty Lie didn't want to drag this on any longer, so he didn't bother explaining and grabbed the trash bag from the cleaner's hands. He'd have screamed robbery if it weren't for the trash in the bag. But because the garbage bag was filled with useless trash, the cleaner didn't even fight with Fatty Lie when he saw him snatching like a madman. He let go and ran away in fright. Who would fight with a madman like him over a trash bag? The cleaner thought that this fatty dressed like a dog, but he was actually a madman. It seemed like he had to stay away from him. Fatty Lie ignored the cleaner. He didn't care what the cleaner thought. Finding the pill that Kong Xiaoming crushed was the most important thing. Lin Yi, Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yun, Fun, and even Lu Tianyi looked at the crazy Fatty Lie in shock. They didn't know what he was trying to do. Old Lie, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? Lu Tianyi had a small conflict with Fatty Lie, but their relationship wasn't bad. He quickly reminded Fatty Lie when he saw him acting so shamelessly. If his business rivals saw this and filmed it, wouldn't they laugh at him? But Fatty Lie didn't seem to hear Lu Tianyi's words at all. He opened the trash bag in his hand and took out the things inside and threw them into the trash can. There were lunch boxes, instant noodle buckets, toilet paper with snot on it, chewed bubble gum, disposable chopsticks, and everything. There were even flies and mosquitoes flying out. Lu Tianyi felt disgusted. Was this Fatty Lie crazy? What was he doing? Shut up. I want to find the pill that was crushed by that wastrel. Fatty Lie roared as he searched the trash bag for something. Forget it. Let him look for it. It would be his fortune if he could find it. Lin, he shook his head. Although it was crushed by Kong Ming Ming, the effect was the same. Lu Tianyi was shocked. He didn't expect Fatty Lie to come up with this idea. He wanted to find the pill that Kong Ming Ming crushed. Found it. Found it. Fatty Lie pulled out a black ball from the trash bag and held it in his hands excitedly, as if he'd found a treasure. Great, I finally found it. Ha ha. Ha ha. Congratulations, Brother Lie. Lu Tianyi walked over and patted Fatty Lie's shoulder. Get lost. Fatty Lie glared at Lu Tianyi. Don't you dare take my pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. I'm not giving it to you. I'm not taking it. Lu Tianyi knew that he didn't tell Fatty Lie about Lin Yi. Fatty Lie was a little unhappy, but he couldn't blame Lu Tianyi. Without Lin Yi's permission, he wouldn't dare say anything about Lin Yi. Why is this pill so big? I didn't see it this big before. Fatty Lie suddenly ran over with the black ball in his hands. Bro, can you help me take a look? Is this it? Why is there a stench? Is this pill smelly? Is good medicine bitter? Lin Yi glanced at the black ball in Fatty Lie's hands and dodged to the back. Tang Yin wanted to go over to take a look, but Lin Yi pulled her back. What's wrong? Tang Yin was curious why Lin Yi didn't let her go over. It's this pill, but it's stuck together with a ball of dog poop. Lin Yi said to Fatty Lie, dig out the light-colored thing on the left. That's dog poop. That's why it smells. Fatty Lie's eyes widened, sweating profusely. Dog poop. However, Fatty Lie gritted his teeth. Even if there was dog poop on it, he had to dig it out. Lu Tianyi couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Dog poop on it? This Fatty Lie sure was unlucky. But Fatty Lie didn't think so. In fact, he felt lucky. So what if it was dog poop? It was already good enough that he could find it. It didn't matter if it was dog poop on it. Fatty Lie carefully dug out the side without dog poop. He didn't dig it out completely, and there was still some dog poop stuck on it. But Fatty Lie didn't dare dig anymore. He couldn't let his dad eat dog poop, could he? Chapter 380. Go get it. Lin Yi thought to himself that Fatty Lie was a rich man. These cigars were obviously expensive, but he threw them away just like that. The cost of one pill wasn't even as much as one of his cigars. Fatty Lie, on the other hand, didn't think so. He treated it like a treasure, and in his eyes, he wouldn't sell it even if he offered it to Lin Yi for 500 million, let alone 100 million. It was a priceless treasure. As the saying goes, 1,000 gold can't buy 10 years of youth. If his father could live for another 10 years after eating this pill, it would be a priceless treasure. However, this pill seemed to be a lot less than before. Would it still be effective? At the thought, Fatty Lie quickly asked, Bro, this pill is much smaller than before. Will it still work? The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had been stomped on by Kong Ming Ming, and quite a bit of it was stuck to the floor. Only a small amount was left after sweeping it up, and the rest was wiped away by the cleaner with a mop. A little. It's hard to say for 5 or 10 years, but it's still possible for him to live for another 1 or 2 years. Lin, he said, it depends on your father's condition and how much poison is in his body. My dad has uremia. Can he detoxify it? Fatty Lie was afraid that Lin Yi would ignore him. Now that he saw Lin Yi asking him a question, he quickly went along with it. If he could get Lin Yi's guidance, he'd be so happy he'd go crazy. Yes, it's a little effective. It won't be a problem to hold out for another year or so, Lin Yi said. Ugh, can it be cured? Fatty Lie asked quickly. Maybe after eating 10 or 20, right? I can't say for sure. Lin Yi did not lie to him. How could uremia be so easily treated? Only the combination of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine could cure it. Bro, can you cure my father? I'll follow you for the rest of my life. I'll do anything for you. No matter how much money you spend, I'm willing. Fatty Lie knelt in front of Lin Yi again. This time, not only was the snot all over Lin Yi's pants, but the hand that had grabbed dog poop earlier was also grabbing onto Lin Yi's pants tightly. Let go of me first. Lin Yi thought to himself, I'll throw these pants away when I get home. I can't keep them anymore. Then you'll treat me? Fatty Lie was overjoyed after hearing Lin Yi's words. Get up right now and get the fuck back home. Give that to your old man to eat first. He won't die so soon. Lin Yi said helplessly. Let me think about it first, then we'll talk about it. Speaking of which, you seem to have some face. A celebrity? All right, I'll go back immediately. Fatty Lie nodded quickly. I have a bit of a reputation in the business world. Bro, what's up? Nothing much. I'll start a company in a few days, and you can come and support me when it opens. I'll give you a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing too. Lin Yi nodded. Are you free? If not, then forget it. Yes, yes, yes. Fatty Lie said the word yes 3 times in a row, afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't hear him clearly and cross him off the invitation list. He was so excited he almost fainted. I'll be your follower. Don't worry, I might be fat, but I have strength. I'm good at running errands. Then go. Get my number from Mr. Liu. Lin Yi was at his wits' end from Fatty Lie's pestering. He had no choice but to give him a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Giving it to someone else to experiment with was no different than giving it to the fatty. All right. Fatty Lie nodded, satisfied, and respectfully sent Lin Yi off to a shabby van. Fatty Lie thought to himself, so Lin Yi likes this kind of car? I'll get a new one tomorrow, just like him. That's the only way to show that I'm a good follower. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet was still going on, and the guests were all smiles, but Dr. Kong couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with the atmosphere. He looked at Kong Ming Ming standing at the side, and it reminded him of what happened earlier. After the guests finished giving their gifts, Dr. Kong waved at Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming quickly ran over. He knew that he'd gotten into trouble, and the situation was clear. Lin Yi was a young master, and he didn't know how Kong Xiaobo knew this person, but Lin Yi's identity was definitely not simple. From the attitude of Director Tian, Lu Tianyi, and Guan Shuamin towards Lin Yi was definitely not simple. And that so-called pill of life extension and toxin cleansing might be real as well. Perhaps it was some kind of rare treasure from somewhere, but Kong Ming Ming treated it like trash and stomped on it. Grandpa. Kong Ming Ming walked over carefully, his hatred for Kong Xiaobo deepening by another level. Why didn't you say so earlier that you got to know such a powerful boss? You made a fool out of me. Go look for the cleaner just now and find that so-called pill of life extension and toxin cleansing he swept away. How could Dr. Kong not understand something that even Kong Xiaobo understood? He also felt that if the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was real, it would be a waste to throw it away. However, he couldn't let outsiders see it and lose face. So he reminded, be careful. Don't let others see it. Got it, Grandpa. Kong Ming Ming saw that there was still a chance to salvage the situation, so he quickly nodded and followed his grandfather's instructions. Kong Ming Ming quickly walked out of the banquet hall when no one was paying attention. In reality, he was like an insignificant clown, so no one paid any attention to him. As soon as Kong Ming Ming walked out of the banquet hall, he bumped into the cleaner who had just been cleaning. He quickly ran over. "Auntie, can I ask you something? Where did you throw the rubbish you just swept away?" Kong Ming Ming had a favor to ask of the cleaner, so he had to change his attitude. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done this under normal circumstances. "The rubbish bin outside." But before the cleaner could finish her sentence, Kong Ming Ming turned and ran. The cleaner shook her head. She wanted to remind him that there was still a fat man snatching the rubbish from the rubbish bin, but Kong Ming Ming was too anxious and didn't hear the latter part of her sentence. Kong Ming Ming was afraid that the rubbish in the rubbish bin had been taken away, so after hearing the cleaner's words, he quickly ran out. When he reached the entrance of the banquet hall, he saw an open rubbish bag beside the rubbish bin. Kong Ming Ming was shocked. It couldn't have been stolen, right? But then he remembered that near hotels and resorts, there were always people who liked to scavenge through rubbish bins to pick out drinks and bottles that could be sold for money. No one should know what that lousy pill was, right? However, Kong Ming Ming didn't dare to delay. He quickly ran over and picked up the rubbish bag, then rummaged through it. Chapter 381. Finally found. A wave of stench assaulted Kong Ming Ming's face. Kong Ming Ming nearly puked. What the hell is this thing? Why is it so smelly? Kong Ming Ming had thought that it was the stench of the trash bag in his hand, so he quickly tossed it aside and stood up. But it was still smelly after he stood up. Kong Ming Ming looked around and realized that the stench was coming from the pill in his hand. Why does this pill smell like this? Kong Ming Ming's stomach churned. Wasn't this a little too smelly? Had it been like this before? But Kong Ming Ming thought about it for a long time and couldn't figure out if the pill had been smelly or not when he'd stepped on it. He'd been too excited at the time, and he'd only been focused on mocking Kong Xiaobo. How could he have had the time to care about whether the pill smelled good or bad? That's probably it. Kong Ming Ming nodded in self-consolation. The color of the dog poop was just too similar to the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Kong Ming Ming had only taken a look at it in his hand before stepping on it, so he couldn't remember the color. Kong Ming Ming hurriedly and carefully held the dog poop in his hand. After making sure that no one was paying attention, he carefully ran back into the banquet hall. As soon as he entered, he saw his grandfather, Dr. Kang's inquiring gaze. Kong Ming Ming quickly nodded to him, indicating that he'd found the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Dr. Kong breathed a sigh of relief. If it really was a treasure, then it would have been a waste to throw it away. He had to give Lu Qianni a call tonight to see if there really was such a thing. Lu Qianni wanted to invite Lin Yi to sit in his car, but when he saw that Lin Yi drove his own car, he had to give up. Lin Yi drove Tang Yun, Kong Xiaobo, Xiao Fun, and Guan Xuemin back to Songshan. He sent Tang Yun back to the hospital and Xiao Fun back home before bringing Kong Xiaobo to Guan Xuemin's house for a discussion. Kong Xiaobo originally wanted to accompany Xiao Fun. He was afraid that Xiao Fun would be in a bad mood after seeing Kong Ming Ming today. But when Xiao Fun heard Lin Yi calling Kong Xiaobo for something important, why would she waste his time? He shook his head at Kong Xiaobo and smiled. "Xiaobo, Brother Lin is looking for you for something serious. You don't have to accompany me. I'm fine. I'm feeling much better now." "Are you really fine?" Kong Xiaobo was still worried. After all, he was hurt so deeply by Kong Ming Ming. How could he be fine just like that? "Haha, I'm waiting for you to take revenge for me one day." Xiao Fun smiled. "I'll remember what you said today." "All right, wait for me. I'll definitely do it." Kong Xiaobo clenched his fist. Lin Yi smiled. He gave Kong Xiaobo a stage to show off, but he needed Kong Xiaobo to be willing. If Kong Xiaobo was sloppy, even if he became a spokesperson, he would only be a role to supervise others. But if he was filled with fighting spirit, it would be different. As long as he had the intention, he would work hard and succeed sooner or later. As long as he had the confidence and dreams, he would definitely achieve it. Tang Yun, I won't be going up. Grandpa Guan already told me about your father's surgery. I can't do anything about the bone problem, but after he's done with the surgery, I have some medicine that can quickly heal his wound. Lin, he said to Tang Yun, when she was about to get off the car, I'll send it to you on Monday. I didn't bring it with me today. Thank you. Tang Yun nodded and didn't refuse. She didn't know when it started, but she gradually got used to Lin Yi's care and care for her. After Tang Yun got off the car, Kong Xiaobo couldn't help but ask, Boss, are you talking about the medicine similar to my second grandpa's golden creation medicine? In the market, only Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine could quickly heal a wound. No wonder Kong Xiaobo was surprised. He didn't expect Lin Yi to have this kind of medicine in his hands. Haha, it should be similar. I haven't seen his formula before, so I can't say for sure, but the effect should be similar. Lin Yi nodded. Kong Xiaobo was shocked. At this moment, he finally understood why Lin Yi was so confident in supporting him to break with Kong Ming and his second grandpa's family. When Lin Yi said that he could let him be on the same level as his second grandpa, Kong Xiaobo didn't really believe it, but for the sake of his face, he said it boldly. At first, Kong Xiaobo was a little nervous, not knowing if his bold words would become a joke, but now he knew that it wouldn't. If Lin Yi also had a formula similar to golden creation, then he was completely qualified to be on the same level as his second grandpa. Dr. Kang's medical company only made money from golden creation. Boss, you are really amazing. Where did you get the formula? My second grandpa hid the formula so well that even my grandpa didn't know. Kong Xiaobo said and sighed. My grandpa is also stupid. He didn't know where the formula was, and my second grandpa stole it. I made it myself. Lin Yi shrugged. Kong Xiaobo was going to be his spokesperson soon, so it was fine to let him know some core secrets. You made it yourself? Kong Xiaobo was so shocked that his eyes widened. Lin Yi can make such a formula himself? How amazing is that? All right, it's good that you know. Don't tell anyone. Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder. I have some personal reasons, and I don't want to stand out. So, this company belongs to you and Grandpa Guan to the outside world. Don't worry, boss. I won't tell anyone. When Kong Xiaobo heard that Lin Yi trusted him as a spokesperson, he was immediately touched. He nodded and said, Xiaofan and I won't tell anyone. This can be said. Lin Yi sweated. Xiaofan's leg, I have to solve it sooner or later, so it's fine to tell her. It's fine as long as a small group of people know. Boss, I just realized that the wisest decision I've ever made in my life was that day when I decided to help you fight on the rooftop. Xiaobo sighed. You wouldn't be taking care of me like this if I hadn't done it on impulse. Kong Xiaobo still had some self-awareness. He knew that he was useless. In Lin Yi's eyes, he couldn't help at all. If there was something that could make Lin Yi look up to him, it was that time. However, what Kong Xiaobo said was really true. It was indeed because Kong Xiaobo could stand out in a hot-headed manner that Lin Yi regarded Kong Xiaobo as a brother. Chapter 382. Go call and ask with the incident with Kong Xiaobo and Kong Ming's incident. Dr. Kang's birthday banquet ended hastily at noon. The atmosphere was good, but there was an indescribable sense of oppression. It was the same for both the host and the guests. Dr. Kong didn't give Kong Xiaobo's parents a good look. Kong Xiaobo's parents couldn't do anything about it. While Kong Xiaobo's incident had caused quite a commotion, Kong Xiaobo's parents knew that it wasn't Kong Xiaobo's fault. Kong Xiaobo had given his second grandpa a huge gift, a precious pill. It was done out of kindness, but Kong Ming didn't appreciate it and crushed the pill without any hesitation. And Dr. Kong didn't stop him after seeing it. That was the problem. Miracle Dr. Kong, from the bottom of his heart, felt a great distance between Zhao Ming and Xiaobo, his own grandson and his cousin. No matter how much Kong Ming had gone overboard, he was still his grandson. He could tolerate it, but Kong Xiaobo hadn't done anything wrong yet. He only suspected that Kong Xiaobo had brought a fake pill to take advantage of his title as a miracle doctor, and yet he allowed Kong Ming to do something so disrespectful. Even if Kong Ming Ming's words were a little overboard, it was understandable. He was a boy, after all, and it was impossible for him to not be impulsive. So, Kong Xiaobo's parents were very understanding. What made them happier was that Kong Xiaobo's good friend seemed to be very powerful. So many big shots knew him and were very friendly to him. That meant that Kong Xiaobo wouldn't be at a disadvantage if he followed him. So, even though Kong Xiaobo's parents were treated coldly and disdainfully by Dr. Kang's family, they still felt a little comforted. Dr. Kang's family didn't like them, either. After the banquet, Kong Xiaobo's parents left without even greeting them. It was clear that Dr. Kang's family was furious about the humiliation earlier. If you ask me, what kind of relatives do you have? It's fine if they don't help us after they become rich, and we don't mind that. But what's the meaning of this? Kong Mu wasn't a member of the Kong family and was extremely displeased by what happened today. Don't talk to relatives like this. Forget it. If it wasn't for Dad asking me to come, I wouldn't have come. Father Kong smiled bitterly. But your son really made my second Uncle lose face today. My son? Isn't he your son? Kong Mu couldn't help but be proud when she mentioned her son. You see how loyal my son's friends are. They aren't even relatives yet, but they can speak up for him. They also know many powerful big shots. Look at your cousins. What are they? Right, the girl that my son pulled today, why is she a little lame? And what Kong Ming Ming said. Kung Fu was a little embarrassed. He didn't want to talk about his family anymore. No matter what, he was the second uncle who was related by blood. He was an elder. At the very least, it was his father who went to punish him. He couldn't say much. I saw it too. Kong Mu was also a little worried. Xiaobo said those words today. Does he really like that girl? It seems that he deliberately stood up for her. I think so too. Kung Fu nodded. What should we do? Not to mention this kid's puppy love. He even found a lame girl. I don't know what this kid is thinking. Yeah, why don't we go home and talk to our son? Don't tell me he was fooled by that girl in the spur of the moment. Kong Mu was even more worried when she heard it. Say what? Kung Fu snorted helplessly. Your son was fooled? I don't think so. Oh? What do you mean? Kong Mu was slightly stunned. Think about it. Kong Xiaobo is impulsive, but is his good friend an impulsive person? I think this incident was most likely planned by him. He came to stand up for the girl named Xiaofan. Kung Fu understood. This person's family background isn't ordinary. You see, Lu Tianyi and Guan Xiumin know him and the owner of the resort. So, I think he supports Kong Xiaobo to be together with that girl. As for why, I can't say it now. It's just a guess. Now that you put it that way, I think it's true. Kong Mu also came to a sudden realization. No matter what, let's go home and ask Xiaobo, Donghai City, Ocean View Villa District. Inside a luxurious villa, the Kong family was gathered in the living room. Dr. Kong, like I, sat in the main seat, looking at his children and grandchildren standing carefully in the room with a dark face. Xiaoming, where's that pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Dr. Kong looked at Kong Ming Ming and asked. Kong Ming Ming was panicking. He carefully took out the dog poop and presented it to Dr. Kong with both hands. Grandpa, the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is here. Dr. Kong nodded and used his hand to pick up the dark brown object in Kong Ming Ming's hand. He was about to take a closer look when a stench assaulted his face. Dr. Kong almost vomited. What's that smell? Why is it so smelly? Grandpa, this is the smell of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. I was choked by it too. Kong Ming Ming explained carefully. It's not a scam, is it? Dr. Kong frowned. I don't think that kid is very reliable. Gui Feng, aren't you on good terms with Lu Tianyi? I think Lu Tianyi seems to be very close with that kid today. Go ask him about it. Dr. Kong wasn't very happy when he said this. Lu Tianyi had come to attend his birthday banquet, but left halfway through. Although he was from House Lu, it was still a huge loss of face for Dr. Kong. As for Guan Xiumin, Dr. Kong didn't dare say anything. Guan Xiumin was already giving him face by coming. He knew very well what kind of miracle doctor he was. He was just a fake miracle doctor, while Guan Xiumin was the real deal. All right, I'll call and ask. Kong Guifeng nodded, took out his phone, and walked to the side to make the call. No one in the room said a word while Kong Guifeng was on the phone. They waited quietly for the result. Hello, Brother Tianyi. I'm Kong Guifeng. Kong Guifeng still wanted to get on Lu Tianyi's good side. House Kang's business in Yinjing relied on the Lu's influence. At the end of the day, Dr. Kong only had a divine prescription. He wasn't a real miracle doctor, so there was no need for these big families to curry favor with them. On the other hand, Dr. Kang's family had to curry favor with these big families for the sake of development. In the eyes of ordinary people, these big families were mysterious existences high above the masses. It wasn't easy for them to even buy a bottle of golden creation, but to these big families, they could buy as much as they wanted. They didn't have to worry about not having enough. Chapter 383. See the results? Oh, it's you, Guifeng bro. I had something urgent to attend to today, so I had to leave at the last minute. I'm very sorry about that, Lu Tianyi said, but he didn't have any intention of apologizing at all. Kong Guifeng was a little displeased, but there was nothing he could do about it. After all, he still had to rely on Lu Tianyi for his military medicine orders. Haha, it's fine. Kong Guifeng, however, smiled nonchalantly. Right, Brother Tianyi, let me ask you something. Do you know my nephew's classmate today? Oh, you're talking about Mr. Lin? Of course I know him. Lu Tianyi laughed. Oh, his family. Kong Guifeng wanted to talk about Lin Yi's background. Haha, he's amazing, isn't he? I say, Brother Guifeng, why are you asking this? Lu Tianyi asked faintly. It's nothing, I'm just curious about the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing he gave me today. Brother Tianyi, you seem to know a bit about it? Kong Guifeng probed. That? Haha, it's a good thing. Lu Tianyi could more or less guess what Lin Yi was trying to say. He wanted Dr. Kang's family to regret it, so he didn't mind revealing something that would make them regret it. But he wouldn't say a word about the real thing. Good thing? Does that mean you know something about it, Brother Tianyi? Kong Guifeng's heart skipped a beat. There was no need for Lu Tianyi to lie to him about something like this. Who was Lu Tianyi? He was a member of the Lius. Even if he was close to Lin Yi, there was no way he'd help Lin Yi lie, was there? And so, Kong Guifeng had a vague feeling that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing really was a good thing. Of course, while Kong Guifeng didn't think he was wrong, his guess was a bit off. If Lin Yi had asked Lu Tianyi to lie for him, Lu Tianyi would have nodded without hesitation. Let's not talk about that. I can't talk about that. Lu Tianyi laughed again. Right, Brother Guifeng, I'm going back to send the old man back to Yinjing. Tianyi, brother, Elder Lu, isn't he here to see Miracle Doctor? Why did you go back? Guifeng paused. He's feeling better now. I even got him a courtyard house to grow vegetables in, Tianyi said with a smile. It's done? Guifeng was shocked. Didn't Miracle Dr. Guan say that only long-term acupuncture would work? How could I use the old man's body as a joke? If not, I wouldn't dare to send him back. Lu Tianyi smiled and said, Well, let's not talk about this first. The old man asked me to accompany him to dance on the dance carpet. Kong Guifeng almost thought that there was something wrong with his ears. Dance on the dance mat? Old Lu Zhenhu could still play on a dance mat. Even walking would be a problem, right? However, before Kong Guifeng could ask, the phone was hung up. Kong Guifeng sighed and walked back with a gloomy face. How is it? Dr. Kong saw that his son's complexion was a little abnormal, and his heart tightened as he asked hurriedly. I didn't get any answers, but it seems like it's really something good. Kong Guifeng said in a deep voice, but I got an important piece of news. Lu Tianyi's father, Elder Lu, has miraculously recovered and can even play on the dance carpet. What? Dr. Kang's heart almost exploded when he heard his son's words. You're saying that 90-year-old man can play on the dance mat? Really? Dr. Kong had seen Zhenhu's condition before. He was so sick that even walking was difficult, but now he could play on the dance mat? His eyebrows twitched as a bad thought crossed his mind. Could it have something to do with the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? I'm guessing so. There's an 80% chance that it's related. Why else would that old fox Lu Tianyi bring this up all of a sudden? Kong Guifeng nodded. That pill of life extension and toxin cleansing might really be something good. I just don't know where Kong Xiaobo's friend got it from. That guy looks like the son of a rich family, so it's not surprising that he could get his hands on some rare items. But this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, is it really the real deal? Dr. Kong picked up the dog poop in his hand in disbelief. How can it work when it's so smelly? Grandpa, as the saying goes, good medicine tastes bitter. I don't think there's any truth to that. Kong Ming had thought of this before, so he decided to show it off now. He wanted to make up for his mistake, so he tried his best to make himself seem more important. Xiaoming's right. Good medicine tastes bitter. Dr. Kong nodded in agreement. But what you hear from others is just hearsay. You have to verify it yourself to see it for yourself. Grandpa, you mean? Kong Ming asked. How about this? Cut this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing in half, then swallow it. See if it has any effects. Dr. Kong hesitated for a moment before speaking to Kong Ming. Me? Kong Ming thought his grandpa was going to take it himself. He didn't expect it to be him. Why? You don't want to live longer? Dr. Kong glanced at Kong Ming. Dr. Kong didn't dare to take it himself. After all, he was old and couldn't handle the torment. But Kong Ming was fine. It's not that. Kong Xiaoming was a little timid. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was supposed to be a good item, but it was just a guess from his family. He didn't dare eat it without a definite conclusion. You're afraid it's poisonous? Miracle, Dr. Kong huffed. Idiot. No matter how stupid Xiaobo is, there's no way he'd send a poison pill over. That's murder in front of everyone's eyes. You'd have to spend eternity in jail. Even if this pill isn't the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, it won't have any side effects. Dad, why don't I try it? Kong Tsuepu hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. Kong Ming was his son. How could he let his son eat something so strange? In the Kong family, Elder Kong was the most important person. Big brother Kong Guifeng and nephew Kong Xiaolong were the most important. On the other hand, he and his son weren't as important. Something like this could only fall to him. The problem was that only the core members of the Kong family knew about this. They couldn't let outsiders try it. If word got out and the great Dr. Kang's family picked up the crushed pill and ate it, wouldn't they laugh their heads off? Chapter 384. Chapter 384. Unexpected call. Let me do it. Kong Ming realized that his grandfather's words made sense. He'd been too cautious before, and now that he thought about it, Kong Xiaobo wouldn't send poison over unless he was an idiot. Sending poison was suicide. If something happened to Dr. Kang's family, he'd be the first suspect. And so, Kong Ming decided to try it himself. He couldn't let it spoil him even if he didn't like it. Letting his father eat, it would only make his grandfather look down on him. Kong Xiaobo gritted his teeth and voiced his decision. Kong Ming's words surprised Dr. Kong a bit. He didn't think that this cowardly grandson of his would be willing to try the medicine on his own. Thus, he said happily, "Good. Xiaoming, Grandpa didn't think that there would be a day when you'd grow up. Don't worry, once we figure out how to make this pill, I'll give you a share of the profits." Kong Ming was overjoyed. If this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was a success, the profits wouldn't be any less than the golden creation. It was a great thing for him to be able to own a share of the company. In the third generation of House Kong, even the outstanding Kong Xiaolong didn't have a share. Kong Ming was overjoyed at the thought that he'd be the first. Kong Ming's father, Kong Tsuepu, was surprised by his son's courage and insight as well. He didn't think that his son's decision would bring him such great profits and benefits. Even Xiaolong was looking at his brother with jealousy. In House Kong, Kong Ming had always been a cowardly, hedonistic young master. So when he did bad things, everyone was used to it. Today, however, he'd suddenly done something sensible. It was a surprise. And so, in his surprise, Dr. Kong gave Kong Ming this promise. Kong Ming took the dog poop from Dr. Kang's hands and placed it on the table. He cut it open with a sharp knife and picked up half of it, preparing to swallow it. Ugh, it stinks. Kong Ming Ming put it to his mouth, almost dying from disgust. Why does it taste the same as dog poop? It's like you said, good medicine tastes bitter, Kong Suepu advised. He was also very excited. If his son took the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing and had an effect, then he would be able to get a share of the company. As a father, he would also be proud. Kong Ming Ming nodded and clenched his teeth. He pinched his nose and closed his eyes, sending half of the dog poop into his mouth. He quickly drank a few mouthfuls of water to suppress the urge to vomit. After a while, he finally caught his breath and let out a long sigh. Phew, I finally ate it. All right, Zhao Ming, don't go out for the next few days. Stay at home and see the effects. Miracle Dr. Kong nodded, turning to Guifeng. Guifeng, seal up the other half of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. If the illumination works, send it to the lab and get the ingredients analyzed. Yes. Kong Guifeng nodded. Kong Ming Ming felt his stomach churn after eating the dog poop, but he endured the urge to vomit and went back to his room, lying on his bed. It had to be said that Kong Ming Ming was quite lucky. The half of the dog poop he took had some pill of life extension and toxin cleansing left on it. It wasn't completely dog poop. Lenny naturally didn't know what happened at the Kangs. If he knew that Kong Ming Ming had picked up the dog poop as the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, and had even eaten half of it, he'd probably be laughing his head off. In Shuamin's house, Lin Yi told Kong Xiaobo about the medical company. But while Kong Xiaobo was excited, he was also worried. After all, he had no experience in business management. Though he didn't want to give up this great opportunity, Kong Xiaobo wasn't an idiot. He knew the consequences of messing around. Boss, I don't know anything about business management. You have to let me learn. After the excitement, Kong Xiaobo regained his composure. He was an impulsive person, but after that, he could calmly consider the problem. During the fight on the rooftop and Xiaofan's incident, Kong Xiaobo had displayed his impulsive personality. But after that, he was able to calm down and consider the pros and cons. Kong Xiaobo's words put Lin Yi in a difficult position. Xu Amin was a scholar, so he naturally didn't have any experience in business management. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't have any experience in assassination. Now, Kong Xiaobo's words weren't unreasonable. He didn't have any relevant experience either. At that moment, Lin Yi finally understood that some things were too simple. You couldn't start a company just because you had a prescription. However, Lin Yi didn't want him to participate in the operation of the company if he wasn't trustworthy. First of all, Lin Yi was a secret. Lin Yi didn't want to expose himself in front of the public and let everyone know that the prescription came from him. After all, Lin Yi was still in the middle of a mission. It wasn't appropriate for him to be distracted by other things. Little E, my idea is to find a trustworthy professional manager. As for me, I mainly want to be a vice president in name or a director of research and development. I just need to cooperate with the publicity, Xu Amin suggested. As for the company, we can let Xiaobo and Xin be the company's directors. They will only participate in the decision-making and not the operation. That's not a bad idea. The key is to find a trustworthy manager, Lenny nodded, but this person is not so easy to find. This is urgent. Xu Amin shook his head. I'll ask someone else. Just like that, the matter was temporarily put on hold. Lin Yi drove Kong Xiaobo out of Xu Amin's villa. He wanted to send him home directly, but Kong Xiaobo said that he wanted to go to a bookstore to buy some business management books. Although it was a bit of a last-minute effort, Lin Yi was glad that Kong Xiaobo had the intention. He was afraid that Kong Xiaobo wouldn't work hard. As long as he was willing to work hard, everything would be fine. Lin Yi sent Xiaobo to the bookstore, but didn't go up with him. He went straight back to Ming Yao's villa. It had been 2 days since he left, and he wondered if the miss was still mad at him. He'd told Ming Yao that he'd be accompanying Xiaobo to his second grandpa's birthday banquet, and Ming Yao hadn't said anything about it. But who knew if Yushu was trying to drive a wedge between them? When he was almost home, Lin Yi's phone rang. He thought it was Kong Xiaobo or Tang Yun, but when he saw the caller ID, he couldn't help but freeze. Chapter 385. Chapter 385. Wang Xinyan's family. Lin Yi paused. Wasn't Wang Xinyan supposed to go to Yinjing to take care of the funeral? Why was she calling him? Was she back already? It couldn't be. How many days had it been? It hadn't even been a week. Lin Yi was a bit confused, but he picked up anyway. Hello. But when he picked up the phone, the call was cut off. What was the meaning of this? Did she call the wrong number? Or was it something else? Lin Yi hesitated for a moment before calling back. It was the first time Xinyan had called him, after all, and he couldn't just ignore it. I'm sorry. The number you have dialed is either powered off or out of service. Please try again later. The robotic voice told Lin Yi that the other party's phone had been turned off. Lin Yi frowned. Could it be that Xinyan was about to call him, and her phone ran out of battery? Lin Yi shook his head and put the phone back in his pocket. There was nothing Lin Yi could do if he couldn't reach her. He was a little worried, but the two were strangers who'd met by chance, and Xinyan was far away in Yinjing. Lin Yi didn't even know where she was. In a luxurious mansion in Yinjing, a man with a fierce look on his face snatched Xinyan's phone from her hands and smashed it on the ground, stomping on it a couple of times. Stupid girl, are you trying to call someone over? I didn't think you'd have a phone on you. Good thing I didn't go too far to keep an eye on you. IDV ruined everything. Xinyan looked at the phone that had been stomped on and raised her head coldly. I'm your cousin, and this is how you're going to treat me. Cousin? Spit out the Shao family's assets first. The man humphed. Grandpa's married you off to someone else in his will. Don't even think about leaving this room before he comes with a betrothal gift. After saying that, the man closed the door with a bang, and then the sound of the door being locked could be heard. Xinyan sighed helplessly. She wouldn't have come back if she'd known that the Shao family was in such dire straits. Not only were her parents under house arrest, but she herself was engaged to a man she didn't even know because of her grandfather's will. It wasn't until she arrived at the Shao family that Xinyan realized that the Shao family wasn't as glamorous as it looked on the outside. The two uncles were fighting over the inheritance, but the Shao family was already strong on the outside. His grandfather had Alzheimer's disease. In the last few years of his life, he signed a few stupid contracts. Not only did he cause the company to lose a lot of money, but he also owed a lot of debt. Even if he sold the company now, it would be enough to pay off the debt. The two uncles, who were originally fighting over the family property, surprisingly united again after finding out the amount of the family property. Now that he couldn't even pay his debts, how could he snatch the family's property? What property was there to fight over? All that was left were the properties that Elder Shao had bought when he was still alive, but the number of properties could be counted with one's fingers. There wasn't much point in fighting over it, so they could just split it evenly. In the eyes of ordinary people, these villas and properties were already worth thousands of dollars. They could live a well-off life just by relying on the rent. However, for the two Shao brothers who were used to living a lavish life, it was unbearable. And so, they turned their attention to their sister, Wang Xinyan's mother, Shao Qinlin, who had left home for many years. Their reason was simple and shameless. Elder Shao had given them 50,000 kuai for travel expenses when Qinlin ran away from home to elope with Wang Xinyan's father, Wang Shubin. This 50,000 kuai was said to be Wang Shubin's investment in his company, and now they wanted him to pay it back with interest. Of course, other than Elder Zhao's will, the Shao brothers also had a promissory note, written by Qinlin all those years ago. Back then, Old Man Shao had given Shao Qinlin 50,000 yuan for the sake of his daughter, even though Shao Qinlin had broken up with her family and eloped with Wang Shubin. No matter what, she was still his daughter, and he couldn't treat her badly. But Qinlin had let her emotions get the better of her. Since she had broken off with the Shao family, she naturally wouldn't take the Shao family's money for free. She had written a promissory note to Elder Shao, saying that she'd pay it back with interest when she became rich. Elder Shao didn't expect his daughter to pay it back, either. He merely laughed it off and told his eldest son, Shao Ji, to throw the note away. Shao Ji, however, was careful and hid the note. After Elder Zhao's death, the note became evidence that the Shao brothers were trying to blackmail Qinlin. With the note and Elder Zhao's will, there was nothing Qin Lin could do, no matter how angry she was. Who told her to write that note all those years ago? Of course, that wasn't the most infuriating thing. The most infuriating thing was that Elder Zhao had found a husband for Xin Yan in his will. Wasn't a little too early for a 12th grader to get engaged? The Zhao brothers were very cocky, saying that if Qin Lin didn't hand over the 20% of their company's shares, they'd see it in court. They'd let the public see that Elder Zhao's daughter didn't care about his body after his death, and was even trying to steal her brother's assets. In all honesty, who was the one trying to steal whose assets? Qin Lin had decided to break off with her family for love, but she was still a filial person. She wouldn't have been able to put down everything she had on hand to handle Elder Zhao's funeral otherwise. Naturally, Linny didn't know what was going on with the Zhao family, but even if he did know, he wouldn't know how to intervene. Family matters like this were the hardest to solve. Linny returned to the villa to see Meng Yao and Yushu digging something in the yard, each holding a small shovel. Yushu's face was covered in dirt, and Meng Yao's clothes were a little dusty, but her face wasn't as bad as Yushu's. Linny parked the car in the yard and got out. He looked at the two curiously. Yao Shu, what you guys doing? Oh, Shield bro, you're back? We're digging for treasure. Come help me. And Yao. We're so tired. Yushu waved happily at Lin Yi when he came back. Shu, what did you call him for? Meng Yao glared at Yushu and lowered her voice. What if he sees us? Don't you feel embarrassed? Chapter 386. Treasure hunt in the yard, yeah. Meng Yao couldn't help but feel tempted by Yushu's words. It was true that the key was in Shu's hands, and Lin Yi wouldn't be able to open the chest even if he managed to dig it out. Maybe we should let him try while we rest. I'm a little tired. What about you? I'm a little tired too. Let's it Shield bro to try then. Yushu wouldn't have been so happy to see him come back if she wasn't tired, calling him over so urgently. Yeah, you call him then. Meng Yao nodded. We don't know when we'll find it if we keep digging like this. That's right. We don't even know where it's buried. The map we drew when we were kids isn't working at all. Yushu wiped the sweat off her forehead, and a few more mud marks appeared. You're still talking about it? Look at that stupid map you drew. It'd be a miracle if we could find it. Meng Yao waved the map in her hand. I said it'd be fine. I'd be able to find it. My ass. All right, Yao. Let's not talk about me. I was only 8 years old back then. It's already pretty good that I could draw something like this. Yushu took the map back embarrassedly before pulling on Meng Yao's arm. Don't touch me. Meng Yao realized that Yushu had left a few mud marks on her arm. What's up? Linny locked the car door and walked over to see Yushu and Meng Yao whispering to each other. He didn't know what they were talking about. Lin Yi, help us dig for treasure, Meng Yao said as she handed the Luoyang shovel to Lin. Dig for treasure? Lin Yi's eyes went wide as he rubbed his ears, wondering if there was something wrong with his hearing. Where? Over here. Yushu pointed at the ground in the yard. In the villa's yard? Linny blinked. You're not kidding, are you? How could there be treasure in this villa's yard? Did you two watch too many movies? This villa was only built about 10 years ago. How could there be treasures? Of course Yushu was about to say we buried it when Meng Yao stopped her. If we say there is, then there must be. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. She couldn't tell Lin that they were the ones who buried the treasure. What if Linny dug it out and took a peek? All right. Linny looked at the two girls' strange expressions and could only nod. Anyway, if the miss asked him to dig, he would dig. It didn't take much effort. Where should we dig? It's in this courtyard. Dig as you see fit. Other than the Luoyang shovel, Meng Yao also had some simple pickaxes and ropes. Shield bro, here's another treasure map, Yushu said as she handed the treasure map she drew when she was young to Lin. Take a look at it. Okay. Linny nodded as he took the map and got to work. Meng Yao rolled her eyes at Yushu helplessly and pulled her a few steps away. Are you stupid? How could you give that map to Lin Yi? Oh, it's fine. I'm the one who's embarrassed. I drew it. Yushu didn't care at all. I thought it'd be easier for him to find it with a map. He'd have no clue at all. You're the one who's embarrassed. Yes, but giving Lin Yi a treasure map. Isn't that telling him that we're the ones who buried the treasure? Meng Yao said helplessly. What if he sees what's in there? Can you afford to lose face like that? I can you? Yushu nodded. Meng Yao wanted to stomp Yushu to death. You can, but I can't. It's fine, Yao Yao. Don't forget that we have the key. Yushu waved the key in her hand. All right. Meng Yao didn't have a choice. She couldn't just ask for the map back, could she? Yao Yao, don't think so much. Shield Bro isn't the type to peep into other people's privacy. He wouldn't open it if he saw a lock. Yushu comforted. Meng Yao nodded. Indeed. Lin Yi didn't seem to be the type to peep into other people's privacy. She and Shu lived upstairs, but Lin Yi hadn't gone up even once. Leaving General Weiwu, there seemed to be an unnecessary move. Meng Yao and Yushu went back to the villa to rest. They'd been digging for a long time. They'd been digging for the whole afternoon yesterday, starting right after Lin Yi left. Today, they'd been digging for the whole day. Both of them were covered in sweat and dirt. Yushu was in a worse state, with mud marks all over her face. The first thing they did was to rush to the bathroom on the second floor to take a shower and change their clothes. Lin Yi waited for the two to leave before picking up the map Yushu gave him. He almost fell to the ground when he saw it. Was this a map? Was there anyone more retarded than this? On the map, there was a drawing of a dog. From the looks of it, it should be a smaller version of General Weiwu. Maybe it was the dog's younger self? Next to General Weiwu was a sandbag, and opposite the sandbag were two school bags. The location of the treasure was in the middle of these three things. Triangulation was quite accurate, but where would Lin Yi find these things now? General Weiwu was alive, and it could move. The sandbag had been tossed thousands of miles away, and these two school bags should be Meng Yao and Yushu's, right? Maybe they were broken and thrown away. Lin Yi was speechless. Only Yushu could draw a treasure map like this. It was too awesome. No wonder they couldn't find anything even with the map. It was as good as not having it. Young Miss had really arranged a difficult task for him. Lin Yi frowned as he looked at the treasure map. He didn't move immediately. Lin Yi didn't have the time to turn every inch of the yard upside down. He had to think of a shortcut. Lin Yi threw away the Luo Yang shovel in his hand. He didn't know where these two girls got such a rare thing. Did they watch too many TV dramas? They weren't going to rob a grave, so why did they get a Luo Yang shovel? A shovel was more than enough to dig in one's own yard. Of course, Lin Yi didn't know that this Luo Yang shovel was obtained by Faubert after a lot of effort. The miss called him to ask for a Luo Yang shovel. Faubert asked her what she was going to do, and she said she was digging for treasure. Faubert didn't dare to ask too much. What if it was a secret? So he used his connections and finally got a Luo Yang shovel. Chapter 387. You come here. You come here. Lin Yi made a hand signal to General Weiwu. He wasn't sure if General Weiwu could understand it, but Lin Yi's hand signal could only be understood by a trained hound. But General Weiwu seemed to be very smart, and it was trained as well. Lin Yi's hand signal made it run over immediately. General Weiwu was afraid of Lin Yi, but didn't dare to show it. It could only pretend to be happy. It felt like Lin Yi was going to kill it and eat it at any time. Lin Yi brought General Weiwu to the yard, and without a word, he placed the treasure map Yushu drew in front of General Weiwu. He pointed at the map and smiled coldly. General Weiwu felt a chill from the bottom of its heart, and its fur stood up. The feeling of being killed and eaten was even worse. But General Weiwu didn't dare to run away. It was sure that if it ran, Lin Yi would be able to catch up to it, and its ending would be even worse. And so, General Weiwu looked at the treasure map in Lin Yi's hand nervously. It felt familiar, and it understood what Lin Yi meant. He had to admit that this dog was quite smart. Lin Yi saw that General Weiwu understood him, and he didn't say anything else. He just sat there and played with the Luoyang shovel. General Weiwu was sweating profusely, afraid that if Lin Yi didn't like it, he would chop off its head with the shovel. It quickly got up and started to search the yard. Of course, it didn't dare to walk too fast in order to not let Lin Yi misunderstand. What if Lin Yi misunderstood and thought that it was running away? General Wei Wu's action surprised Lin Yi as well. This dog wasn't as simple as it seemed. It really understood what he meant. It even knew his threat. Was it transmigrate? However, General Wei Wu quickly stopped at a spot and used its claws to dig the soil. Then it called out to Lin Yi. Lin Yi nodded. He just wanted to give it a try, but he didn't expect General Wei Wu to be so helpful. He found it so quickly. Lin Yi used the Luoyang shovel in his hand to dig. Not long after, there was a crisp ding sound. Lin Yi was a little surprised. He didn't expect to find it so easily. Satisfied, Lin Yi nodded at General Wei Wu, signaling it to go back. Then, Lin Yi dug out the treasure chest. The surface of the treasure chest was covered in rust. Although it could be seen that it was a very good iron chest, it had been corroded for too long. There was also a small lock on top of it, but it had been corroded to the point that it was broken. It was useless. When was this buried? Meng Yao and Yu Shu couldn't have buried it, could they? Thinking about the treasure map, it was possible. Lin Yi was a little speechless as he opened the treasure chest. If there was a lock on top of the treasure chest, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't break the lock, but now that the lock was broken, Lin Yi naturally opened the treasure chest. Inside the treasure chest was an oiled paper bag. Although the outside of the treasure chest was covered in rust, and even the lock on top of the treasure chest was corroded and broken, the inside of the treasure chest was well made. It had a waterproof layer and rubber pad, and after so many years, it was only a little wet. The oiled paper inside didn't show any signs of corrosion. From the looks of it, the price of this treasure chest shouldn't be cheap. However, for the two young ladies, it was nothing. Lin Yi took out the oiled paper bag and opened it casually. He realized that the layers inside were very tight. Not only was there oiled paper, there was also a plastic sheet. After opening the outer packaging, there were two small bags inside. Lin Yi was a little surprised. Was this the so-called treasure? Lin Yi was just about to open one of the sachets when he heard a sudden scream from behind, scaring Lin Yi so much that he almost dropped the sachet in his hand. Lin Yi turned around to see Meng Yao running towards him with a towel wrapped around her. The hem of the towel fluttered in the wind, revealing a pair of smooth, jade-like legs. Although he couldn't see it clearly, Lin Yi couldn't help but gulp down a mouthful of saliva. Meng Yao's body was tall and well-proportioned. Although she wasn't as voluptuous as Yu Shu, her figure was still 1 in 100. Lin Yi wouldn't take the initiative to peek at the miss, but there was no harm in looking at her when she was right in front of him. Meng Yao suddenly realized where Lin Yi was looking at. Her face reddened as she snatched the sachet from Lin Yi's hands. Shameless. She turned around and walked quickly back into the villa, but this time she didn't dare run. She walked fast, but she moved slowly with small, quick steps. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. It was over. He'd left a bad impression on the Mississippi. But, in all honesty, it was the miss who'd run away fast and let him see it. It wasn't like he'd seen it on his own accord. He went back to the living room dejectedly. Meng Yao and Yu Shu were already upstairs. Lin Yi was a little speechless. He'd done something good, and now he'd ruined it? He was helping them dig for treasure, and they were calling him shameless. Man, peeping wasn't good either. After a while, Meng Yao and Yu Shu came down from upstairs. The two had already changed into tight pajamas, and Lin Yi couldn't see anything. But Lin Yi felt wronged. Meng Yao wore shorts sometimes. Didn't that expose even more of her body? He only felt that the hazy feeling was a little exciting, but he didn't see anything at all. Looking at Meng Yao's face, Lin Yi quickly sat down and pretended that it had nothing to do with him as he prepared to watch TV. Ahem! Meng Yao saw that the guy didn't seem to realize what he'd done. She got even angrier and glared at Lin Yi after coughing twice. It's the Mississippi. What's up? Lin Yi raised his head and looked at Meng Yao carefully, pretending that he'd just seen Meng Yao coming down the stairs. It couldn't be helped. It was his fault for peeping at her. Chill, bro. Yao Yao's going to scold you. Be careful. Yu Shu winked at Lin Yi, but the solemn atmosphere disappeared with Yu Shu's interference. Meng Yao was about to explode. This Yu Shu was here to mess things up. This girl probably liked Lin Yi and was helping him out. But Lin Yi was too shameless. She had to give him a warning. And so, Meng Yao pretended not to hear Yu Shu's words. She stared at Lin Yi sternly. Linny, do you know what a follower should do? Ugh, I know. I shouldn't look at things I shouldn't. Linny nodded. Chapter 388. Chapter 388. Past wishes, but I saw it by accident. It's not my fault. Linny said, feeling wronged. How could he be blamed for this? By accident? Who are you trying to fool? Ming Yao's eyes were wide open. There's a lock on the chest. How could you have seen it if you hadn't opened it? What? Lin Yi's eyes were wide open as well. Chest? You're talking about a chest? If it wasn't a chest, then what did you think it was? Ming Yao wasn't happy with Lin Yi's act. I thought you were talking about your thighs. Lin Yi said, sweating. Thighs? Ming Yao's face reddened. Don't change the topic, it was an accident. I'm talking about why you broke the lock on the chest. Don't you know that it's immoral to peek at someone else's privacy? Had it been someone else, Ming Yao would have thought that the lock might have been broken by someone else, but Lin Yi had pulled down the iron bars of the storeroom in the villa's backyard with ease, saving Yushu. Breaking a small lock was a piece of cake for Lin Yi. It wasn't her thighs. As long as it wasn't. Lin Yi let out a long sigh of relief. It seemed that Ming Yao wasn't going to pursue the matter any further, and that made Lin Yi feel relieved. As for the lock on the chest, Lin Yi didn't think much of it. I didn't break the lock. It's been corroded for years, and the chest could be opened directly. Really? Ming Yao blinked at Lin Yi's explanation. Really? You can go see for yourself if you don't believe me. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Ming Yao panicked after listening to Lin Yi's explanation. Lin Yi had no reason to lie to her. After all, he only needed to go out and take a look to know the result. Before Ming Yao could say anything, Yushu ran out and came back not long later with a broken lock at her hand. Yao Yao, look, it's really the lock that's corroded. It's not Shield Bro's doing. I told you before, Shield Bro isn't that kind of person. Little Shu, which side are you on? Ming Yao was a little pissed off at Yushu's words. Why don't you hide it and destroy the evidence? Oh, should I throw it away now? Yushu asked weakly. Ming Yao's face reddened when she realized that Lin Yi was still there. I'm just saying, I'm just joking. Come on, let's go upstairs. Okay. Yushu nodded and smiled at Lin Yi. Then, she went upstairs with Ming Yao. Lin Yi didn't know what was going on. Was the meeting over just like that? The mist didn't want to cause trouble for him anymore. Lin Yi didn't think that things would end so easily. What a surprise. Shu, you've made me lose face. You brainless girl. Tell me, did you help Lin Yi on purpose? Ming Yao was very furious. After all this, it was all her fault. She wanted to yell at Lin Yi, but couldn't bring herself to do so. No, I'm just telling the truth. Yushu said innocently. Yao Yao, do you want me to lie? Didn't you always tell me that lying kids are bad? Ming Yao waved her hand helplessly when Yushu changed the topic. It's fine, let's go upstairs. Okay, I want to see what wishes I wrote when I was young. I forgot. Yushu said excitedly as she ran upstairs. Which of these 2 sachets is yours? Ming Yao asked as she looked at the 2 pouches in her hands. She couldn't tell who belonged to whom. It was way too long ago, or else she would have remembered where she buried it. I don't know. Let's open one each. It's in a long time anyway. We can see what wishes we made back then. Yushu said. All right then. Ming Yao nodded after some hesitation. She didn't want Yushu to find out about her secret. The girl wasn't very trustworthy. She'd probably spread the news to Lin Yi the moment she found out. That'd be so embarrassing. But thinking about it, it was a long time ago, and she couldn't even remember what she'd written. Even if Lin Yi found out, it was just a childhood fantasy, and it didn't matter. And so, Ming Yao and Yushu each picked up a pouch and opened it. The pouches were sewn together with thin thread, and the 2 of them weren't in the mood to open them bit by bit. Yushu, who couldn't wait any longer, took out a pair of scissors and cut off the thread before opening the pouch. Hee, I'll open it first and see whose it is, Yushu said with a smile. The paper was a little yellowed, and the handwriting was old, but it was still very clear. My wish is to live with Shu for the rest of my life, and be happy forever. This was evidently Ming Yao's handwriting, and Ming Yao listened to Yushu's words in surprise. She didn't think that she'd been this close with Shu since they were kids. Yao Yao, I'm so touched. Yushu was a carefree person, but she couldn't help but feel touched when she read the contents of the paper. Her eyes reddened, and tears were about to fall. Humph. Now you know how good I am to you. Meng Yao took the scissors and opened the pouch in her hand. Needless to say, this was Yushu's. My wish is to marry Yao Yao and be with her for the rest of my life. Huh. Meng Yao's eyes widened after reading the contents of the paper. Yushu wanted to marry her? Was there something wrong with her? Was she a lesbian? Huh. Yushu paused as well. She didn't think that her wish would be this powerful. Yao Yao. Could it be that we were a pair of lesbians back then? Why else would our wishes be the same? Lesbians my ass. Meng Yao was speechless. What's the same? Far from it. If we're a pair of lesbians, it's you, not me. I'm writing that I want to live with you, that we can live together as sisters. Look at what you wrote. You want to marry me. You're the one with the problem. Chapter 389. Don't forget the video. Yushu was deep in thought, blushing when Meng Yao interrupted her. You're not thinking about something unhealthy again, are you? Nope. Yushu shook her head, her thoughts exposed. Then why are you blushing? Meng Yao didn't quite believe her. I just feel like my old wish is a little hard to fulfill. But I've decided to change it. Yushu said, I've decided to marry the same man with Yao Yao, so we can live together forever. Meng Yao sweated. Why do you still remember that wish? It was close to evening when an annoying visitor came to the villa. Linny didn't think that Jiang Wen would have the balls to come knocking on his door again. Hadn't he been beaten up enough last time? But, looking at the smile on his face, Lin Yi almost thought that the guy had lost his memory after being beaten up. Brother Lin, I'm really sorry about last time. I didn't think we'd part on such bad terms after a meal. It's my fault. I haven't been back to Songshan for years. I don't know the situation here. Never mind. Let's not talk about last time. Are you free tonight? I have a few bros who admire you, Brother Lin, and want to have a few drinks with Brother Lin. Jiang Wen smiled at Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at Jiang Wen oddly. This guy couldn't be thinking of ways to get back at him after what happened last time. Could he? This guy was really impatient. He came to seek revenge so soon. Lin Yi turned to Meng Yao, asking for her opinion. Meng Yao, naturally, knew that Jiang Wen was up to no good. If this guy was an amnesiac, he wouldn't have forgotten that Lin Yi had just beaten him up, would he? The band-aid on his forehead was proof of that. Jiang Wen, bro, is there something wrong with your heart? Yushu looked at Jiang Wen, surprised. Jiang Wen didn't know what to say. Shu, what are you talking about? I don't understand. It's nothing, I just think you're looking for trouble. Yushu didn't care about Jiang Wen's face at all. Jiang Wen was a little pissed at Yushu, but he didn't dare say anything. 1, he was worried about his image in front of Meng Yao, and 2, he really couldn't afford to piss off this girl. Yao Yao Mei Mei, today I want to thank my savior, if you don't mind lending me your bodyguard, right? Jiang Wen smiled as he looked at Meng Yao. He emphasized the word bodyguard on purpose, implying that he already knew that Lin Yi was his bodyguard. Meng Yao frowned, but the fact that Lin Yi was hired by her dad wasn't a secret. Many people in the company knew about it, and Jiang Wen wouldn't be able to hide it from him if he wanted to. She didn't want to make a fuss about Lin. It's nighttime now, I can't control what he wants to do. Speaking of which, Meng Yao was still a little pissed off because of what happened in the afternoon. She couldn't vent her anger, so she was more than happy to see Jiang Wen cause trouble for Lin Yi. Although it was foreseeable that Jiang Wen would get beaten up again, Meng Yao didn't want Lin Yi to have it easy. She wanted him to do some work, and it'd help relieve some of the anger in her heart. Haha, Brother Lin, your boss has agreed to it. What do you think? Give me some face. Jiang Wen smiled as he looked at Lin Yi. All right, let's go then. Lin Yi nodded. Since Meng Yao had put it that way, he might as well go teach the kid a lesson. A shield had to have the awareness of shield, after all. He couldn't just take his salary for free, could he? Let's go then, Mr. Lin. Jiang Wen was overjoyed when he heard that Lin Yi had agreed. Meng Yao and Lin Yi's guess was right. He was here to get back at Lin Yi today. Jiang Wen was pissed off after being tricked by Lin Yi last time, especially since the one who beat him up was Cihua, the person he was supposed to cooperate with. There was no way he could vent his anger. So, if Jiang Wen didn't teach Lin Yi a lesson, the latter would think that he was a pushover. Of course, Jiang Wen couldn't do anything to Lin Yi in broad daylight. After all, he was inviting Lin Yi to dinner from Meng Yao's place. He couldn't be too obvious, or Meng Yao would think that he was petty. Jiang Wen's idea was that since Lin Yi had tricked him once, he'd tricked him once as well. He'd let Lin Yi suffer in silence. Lin Yi stood up and followed Jiang Wen out of the villa. When he reached the door, he heard Yushu calling him from behind. "Shield bro video. Don't forget." Lin Yi nodded with a bitter smile. Jiang Wen, who was walking in front of him, almost fell to the ground. So Lin Yi had recorded him last time? Didn't Meng Yao see it too? Fuck, he'd make a fool of himself. No wonder Meng Yao was looking at the bandage on his forehead with a weird expression today. So she already knew about it. This Lin Yi, he'd make a fool of himself this time. Humph, but this time, he'd be the one making a fool of himself. Didn't Yushu want to record it? Fine, he'd fulfill his wish. He'd record it for her to see. With that thought, Jiang Wen calmed down a little. A smile appeared on his face as he acted like he didn't understand. "Shu lil sis, don't worry. I'll get a professional videographer to record the drinking competition later." Yushu didn't say anything. She only frowned as she waited for Lin Yi and Jiang Wen to leave the villa. Yao, Jiang Wen seems pretty confident this time. Who knows? He looked pretty confident last time. Meng Yao curled her lips. Compared to Lin Yi, she hated Jiang Wen more. That's true. I hope Shield Bro can give us another surprise this time. I'd like to see how Jiang Wen gets unlucky this time. Yushu nodded. From Jiang Wen's words, Lin Yi could tell what he was planning. Drinking competition? Could it be that this guy wants to get me drunk and then do something? But getting himself drunk? Was that even possible? Lin Yi smiled faintly as he followed behind Jiang Wen. "Mr. Lin, we're not going home until we're drunk. Let's not drive, okay? Otherwise, we won't be able to drive back." Jiang Wen was afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't drink so much if he drove. His plan would fail then. "All right, we'll take your car then." Lin Yi didn't mind. He could take a taxi back if he didn't drive. Chapter 390. No going home. We didn't get to enjoy ourselves last time. We made a small mistake. This time, we're going to enjoy ourselves to the fullest. Jiang Wen pointed at a black Rolls-Royce. "Get in, please." Lin Yi nodded and got in. The car started moving slowly after Jiang Wen got in. It seemed that Jiang Wen had already booked a hotel and was just waiting for Lin Yi's approval. The location this time was still Starlight Hotel, and it seemed that Jiang Wen could pick himself up from wherever he fell. The room was the same as last time, but there were a few more people here. Other than Tai Zhao, there was also the feminine-looking man from before and a fatty who looked like a Methriya Buddha. All three of them stood up when they saw Jiang Wen enter, evidently looking to Jiang Wen as their leader. "Mr. Lin, you're here." Tai Zhao walked over and held Lin Yi's hand passionately, but there was a flash of venom in his eyes. He wasn't going to let that go so easily after getting beaten up by Jiang Wen and him. "Huh, Subro, what's wrong with your forehead?" I saw a band-aid on him bro's head as well. Don't tell me you two were playing headbutt and bumped into each other?" Lin Yi had been with Yushu for a long time now, and his way of speaking was a bit like Yushu's. Lin Yi couldn't help but blush with embarrassment at his imaginations. He could imagine the two of them arching their backs and using all their strength to bump into each other. Tai Zhao sweated profusely, feeling even more pissed off. Who the hell would bump their heads into each other? Unless they were brainless. Why is there a band-aid on your head? Don't you know what's going on? But he was here to get Lin Yi to drink with him. This wasn't the time for a fight. Tai Zhao could only suppress his anger and smile. "I bumped into the door by accident, huh? Come, let's not talk about this. Please have a seat, Mr. Lin. Let me introduce you to these two brothers." Lin Yi nodded and sat down. Tai Zhao started introducing the feminine-looking man and the fatty Methriya Buddha. The feminine-looking man was Gang Lu, and the fatty Methriya Buddha was Tai Wei. Gong Lu's family was in the foreign trade business, and Tai Wei was Tai Zhao's cousin. "I'm very happy to meet you today, Mr. Lin," Tai Wei said. "Jiang Wen bro, I heard that you're Jiang Wen bro's savior. I'll call you Brother Lin since I'm a bit older than you are. Let's drink till we're drunk, shall we?" "All right, Lenny nodded. Ah. Tai Wei paused. According to Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao's plan, Lin Yi wouldn't fall for it so easily and wouldn't go home until he was drunk. After all, who wouldn't go home until they were drunk with their enemies? And so Tai Wei had come up with a bunch of words to persuade Lin Yi, with Jiang Wen and Gang Lu helping out as well. Gang Lu was the strategist to the younger generation of House Su, and he had a pretty good brain and a belly full of bad ideas. He was the one who'd come up with the plan today. After a bit of planning, they decided to trip Lin Yi up in the drinking. It'd be best if they could get him into the hospital. But even if he couldn't, they'd still have to record him when he was drunk. But this was all a scheme, not a fight in the open. Meng Yao wouldn't say anything even if she found out about it, and Jiang Wen was quite confident. But Lin Yi's reaction was out of everyone's expectations. Lin Yi agreed to it without hesitation after Tai Wei's one sentence, leaving them a little dumbfounded. Tai Wei felt like there was a fishbone stuck in his throat, and he couldn't use the words he'd prepared at all. He'd wanted to wait for Lin Yi to reject him, and then give a long speech of reasoning and persuasion, but there was no need for that at all. Lin Yi smiled at everyone's shocked faces. Haha, you guys know that I'm a Miss Follower, and I don't get to drink at home usually, so I'm a little craving for it. As soon as Lin Yi's words left his mouth, everyone understood. So that was it. But it made sense. Lin Yi was Meng Yao's follower, hired by Peng Zhan. He couldn't be drinking all the time, could he? That would make sense. Naturally, Lin Yi wouldn't let go of such a rare opportunity like this. Everyone calmed down at Lin Yi's words. They'd thought that Lin Yi was playing some kind of trick, but it seemed like he'd really decided to get drunk. Gang Lu, go get a few boxes of beer to quench our thirst, and then bring out the white wine, Jiang Wen ordered. Mixing beer and white wine was very easy to get drunk, and it was very harmful to the stomach as well. Too much of it could even cause gastric bleeding or perforation. One had to admit that Jiang Wen was a devious bastard, asking for a few boxes of beer to quench his thirst. But Jiang Wen's goal was to drink Lin Yi to death, and even if he couldn't, he'd get him drunk and do something for him. Lin Yi looked like he had some alcohol tolerance, but Jiang Wen wasn't worried at all. He, Tai Zhao, and Gang Lu were all experts in the art of alcohol. Which one of the 4 young masters of Songshan didn't have amazing alcohol tolerance? Gang Lu, the strategist, was even more so. He'd drink nonstop at home, even if no one else was urging him to drink, and he'd chug down a bottle of white wine every time he was about to do something bad. How could an alcoholic like him be measured with common sense? Of course, if the 3 of them still couldn't get Lin Yi drunk, they still had another ace up their sleeve. Su Tai Wei. This kid was a freak of the Su family. He was simply an alcoholic. Not only could he drink, but he was also proficient in all kinds of dangerous drinking methods. For example, he could drink red wine with Sprite, whiskey with iced black tea, beer with Coke, or he could drink red wine, white wine, and beer in turns. He could even drink to death. Others might die instantly after drinking these techniques, but Su Tai Wei had grown up in a wine tank, and his father was in charge of the Su's winemaking business. He was basically an alcoholic tank. With a life-saving trump card like Su Tai Wei, what did Jiang Wen have to fear? Soon, a couple of waiters came in with a few boxes of beer printed in English under Gong Lu's lead, placing them on the floor. Lin Yi looked at them, a trace of anger flashing through his heart. Weren't these guys a little too much? The beer was of the highest alcohol content. If it weren't for his knowledge, he'd probably be in the hospital right now. Jiang Wen had said that he wanted to get a few boxes of beer to quench his thirst, but Gang Lu had ordered the waiters to bring in the high alcohol content tactical nuclear penguin. Chapter 391. Let's change to white, Mr. Lin, please. Jiang Wen took out a few cans of beer from the box and placed them on the table, turning to Lin. It's summer soon, it's hot. Want to have some beer to quench your thirst? Drinking beer right off the bat, I don't think you're interested. Lin, he said disinterestedly. You need to drink with a few people. It's not mineral water. What's it to quench your thirst for? Then let's drink together. Jiang Wen thought. Wouldn't it be easy to drink with a few people? We'll drink with you. He raised his glass with that. Cheers to you. I'll drink. It's up to you if you want to. With that, Jiang Wen tilted his head back and downed the entire can of beer. The alcohol content of this beer wasn't low, but it wasn't much for a veteran like Jiang Wen. Jiang Wen's alcohol tolerance was quite high, and he could drink a few bottles of Mao Dai without a problem. Which of the four young masters of Songshan wasn't a big drinker? Plus, Jiang Wen had another ace up his sleeve today, Su Tai Wei. All right, Lin nodded, mimicking Jiang Wen's action as he tilted his head back and placed the empty bottle on the table. Brother Lin, you're a good drinker. Jiang Wen praised as he picked up the empty bottle from Lin Yi's table and placed it on the floor, replacing it with an open can of beer. Jiang Wen wanted to check if Lin Yi had really drunk the beer in front of him and calmed down after confirming that it was empty. Still, he mocked himself for thinking too much. This tactical nuclear penguin beer was rare, and he'd asked a friend to get it from abroad. A country bumpkin like Lin Yi must have thought that it was just some foreign alcohol, since foreign alcohol usually had a lower alcohol content. That was why he downed it in one gulp. But that was fine, too. Let the country bumpkin drink as much as he wanted. Everyone would drink a can of beer with him, and then they'd serve white alcohol. It wouldn't take long for Lin Yi to end up in the hospital. Does beer taste good? I've never seen this before. Lin Yi pretended to be curious as he read the words printed on the outside of the beer. That's right. It's expensive wine. Tai Zhao laughed heartily, afraid that Lin Yi would see the alcohol content on the bottle. Let's have another toast, okay? Lin Yi nodded readily. Tai Zhao and Lin Yi finished their cans of beer in one gulp, and Jiang Wen nodded to himself. He felt like he'd seen through Lin Yi now. The guy was just a country bumpkin, a little smart, but also a little greedy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come out every time he was asked to eat. The way Lin Yi was drinking made Jiang Wen understand. The kid probably hadn't had much of a drink before. Now that there was a chance, how could he let it go? Originally, he was still thinking about how to trick Lin Yi and let everyone at the table take turns toasting Lin Yi. But now, there was no need to trick him anymore. What happened next surprised Jiang Wen even more. Lin Yi and Tai Zhao drank a can of beer at each other's mouth. They didn't seem to be sated anymore. They poured the empty cans into their mouths before putting them down reluctantly. Lin Yi's reaction was subtle, and he didn't say much, but Jiang Wen saw it all. He was getting happier and happier. Actually, the taste is just so. There's nothing special about it. Lin Yi said faintly. Jiang Wen wanted to laugh out loud at Lin Yi's words. So? Why would you drink so fast? Was it because you didn't want to owe me a favor after drinking? But Jiang Wen didn't say that. As far as he was concerned, it didn't matter, as long as Lin Yi was admitted to the hospital. Brother Lin, a toast to you as well. Gang Lu stood up and handed Lin Yi another can of beer. Thank you for what you did for Bro that day. You're welcome. Lin Yi couldn't hide his joy as he took the can of beer from Gang Lu and downed it in one gulp. Well, tactic. How creative. Lin Yi was feeling a little disdainful. If it weren't for the fact that he still had to stay in Songshan, Lin Yi wouldn't mind throwing these pieces of trash out of the window. He'd let them experience what it felt like to be a Superman. But now, at least on the surface, Lin Yi wouldn't cause any trouble for him. As a result, Jiang Wen and his group's plan was to watch a show. Tai Wei came up after Gang Lu went downstairs, but this time he had 4 cans of beer in his hands. He placed 2 in front of Lin Yi before opening the other 2. Brother, you saved Bro's life. That means you're my Wei Bro's savior. 1 can of beer isn't enough to express my sincerity, so I'll use 2. But Lin brothers, you could do as you please. Lin Yi knew what the guy was thinking with one look. He knew that the beer was up to this point, and that they wouldn't be taking turns to get Lin Yi drunk. He was the last one left, and he had to take advantage of this opportunity. If Wei Bro can do it, then I'll do it too. Lin Yi thought to himself. Who called himself Wei Bro? Wasn't this guy a little too strong? And so, Lin Yi purposefully pronounced the word "do it" 4 times, echoing Wei Bro's name. Tai Wei naturally could tell that Lin Yi was playing a trick, but he had to drink with Lin Yi, and so he pretended not to hear anything. All right, I'll drink first. 2 cans of beer went down Tai Wei's throat, as if he were drinking water. His face wasn't red, and his heart wasn't beating at all. On the other hand, it was the same for Lin Yi. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao looked at each other, a trace of shock in each other's eyes, It seemed like this Lenny kid had some alcohol tolerance. Thank goodness Tai Wei was here, otherwise they really wouldn't be able to do anything to Lin Yi. Seeing that this wasn't going to affect Lin Yi much, Jiang Wen gave Gang Lu a look, telling him to move on to the next step of the plan, skipping the beer part. The alcohol content of the beer wasn't low, but it was still a far cry from white wine. Instead of drinking a bellyful of beer, they might as well switch it to white wine. What if Lin Yi drank too much beer? It wouldn't be worth it if they didn't drink white wine. Brother Lin, you're a good drinker. I'm impressed. Gang Lu smiled. Looks like Brother Lin's a drinker as well. Why don't we switch to white wine? It'd be boring otherwise. Chapter 392. Into the bottle. Gang Lu wasn't expecting Lin Yi to be this easygoing, pausing as he looked at Jiang Wen. Jiang Wen wasn't afraid at all. What was there to be afraid of with Tai Wei as his trump card? He was just worried that Lin Yi wouldn't drink it. As long as Lin Yi was willing to drink it, he wouldn't be afraid of dying from it. No wonder Brother Lin didn't drink much last time. He thought that red wine wasn't strong enough. Jiang Wen realized. No wonder Lin Yi wasn't happy last time. The guy was pissed that Jiang Wen didn't let him drink to his heart's content. Jiang Wen had been wondering why Lin Yi would do that to him. He had nothing against Lin Yi, so why would Lin Yi do that to him? Lin Yi was just Ming Yao's bodyguard, not her boyfriend. He was hired by Peng Zhan. All he had to do was take care of Ming Yao's safety. Why would he care if Jiang Wen pursued Ming Yao or not? It was even more impossible to say that it was an unintentional grudge from before. If it was, why would Lin Yi save him at the theme park? As a result, Jiang Wen couldn't understand why Lin Yi would do something like that to him. After thinking about it, this was the only reason. Lin Yi was here as a savior, and Jiang Wen didn't let him drink to his heart's content. Naturally, Lin Yi would be angry, and so he vented a little. What happened last time, on the other hand, was quite a coincidence. Lin Yi didn't know that Sihua was here, and he didn't know that Jiang Wen was going to call him miss. It had all happened out of the blue, and there was nothing planned about it. The more it was like this, the more it proved that Lin Yi didn't want to mess with him at all, and that it was an impromptu idea. Of course, Jiang Wen had underestimated Lin Yi too much. Lin Yi didn't even need to prepare to kill someone, let alone mess with someone. Huh? Lin Yi smiled faintly, as if saying good that you know. Jiang Wen looked at Lin Yi's face, and was even more certain that Lin Yi didn't drink properly last time. Gang Lu, get the white wine. Jiang Wen ordered. All right, brother-in. Young Gang Lu quickly ran out of the private room and gave a few instructions to the waiter at the door. Because he had instructed the waiter beforehand, Yang Gang Lu didn't need to say anything unnecessary. Not long after Yang Gang Lu returned, the waiter came back with 3 bottles of Mao Dai and a variety of dishes. It was obvious that they had been prepared beforehand. This made Lin Yi feel that Jiang Wen wasn't a good person. There wasn't a single dish on the table when they were drinking beer. Although it was to quench his thirst, drinking on an empty stomach was the easiest way to get drunk. These guys probably ate something before, but Lin Yi didn't. Sneering, Lin Yi thought to himself, it seems like these guys don't just want to get me drunk, they want me to drink myself to death. Since that's the case, I'll drink you to death first. Just 3 bottles of Mao Dai? That's not enough, right? Lin Yi said as he looked at the Mao Tai in the waiter's hands. Oh, Jiang Wen paused. He didn't want to scare Lin Yi with too much. Baijiu wasn't the same as beer, after all. Many people drank beer while hugging a box, but who drank baijiu while hugging a box? But since Lin Yi said so, Jiang Wen went with the flow. Bring a box over. The waiter nodded quickly and went to get the white wine. Gang Lu was about to pour himself a glass when Lin Yi stopped him. Lin Yi waved his hand. It's too troublesome to pour it out. Just drink it from the bottle. Drink from the bottle. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao were a little dumbfounded. They'd never heard of white wine being drunk from the mouth. They were experienced drinkers, and it wasn't as if they'd never competed in drinking before, but this was a little scary. But just because Jiang Wen and the others hadn't heard of it didn't mean that Tai Wei hadn't. His family was in the wine business, and the people he interacted with were all wine merchants. These people were even drunker than the wine jugs, and it wasn't unheard of for them to drink erguo too at food stalls. In order to deal with these merchants, Tai Wei had to accompany them to all sorts of events, and so he often went to food stalls. Looks like Brother Lin's a master as well. Tai Wei wasn't surprised at all. He had to take Lin Yi seriously as an opponent, but it wasn't to the point of worrying yet. There were so many wine merchants out there, and which one of them wasn't a master drinker? Most of the orders were made by Tai Wei at the table, and so Tai Wei only paid a little more attention to Lin Yi. All right, looks like Wei Bro is a kindred spirit as well. I'll drink first then. Lin Yi took the initiative this time, opening the lid of the Mao Tai in front of him and downing it in one gulp. Wah! It wasn't just Jiang Wen. Even Tai Wei was flabbergasted. White wine could be drunk from bottle. Wasn't this too magical? Even if Tai Wei usually drank from a bottle with a wine merchant, it was only one sip at a time, and he'd only finish it when there wasn't much left. But drinking it down like beer was something Tai Wei had never seen before. Even so, a feeling of defiance rose from the bottom of his heart. Tai Wei was a publicly acknowledged god of wine in the circle of Songshan's young masters, and now he was being provoked by a nobody that Jiang Wen had ordered him to drink into the hospital. How could Tai Wei take that line down? He couldn't, because he turned into a ninja turtle. Tai Wei sneered coldly. A bottle of baijiu wasn't much to him at all, and his limit was around 5 bottles. This bottle was a little rushed, but Tai Wei could accept it. Tai Wei opened the bottle and downed it in one gulp, just like Lin Yi. It was a little rushed, but it didn't affect him much. His face flushed a little before returning to normal. Although Tai Wei looked fine on the surface, his stomach was still feeling pretty bad. Even someone with a high tolerance for alcohol wouldn't feel good if he poured a bottle of baijiu down his throat, even if he didn't have an indestructible body. Good wine, let's try again. Lin Yi tossed the empty bottle aside and picked up another bottle of white wine. Tai Wei wasn't expecting Lin Yi to continue drinking without even resting after one bottle. His face couldn't help but turn a little pale. Let me. Jiang Wen frowned. He hadn't expected Lin Yi to be an alcoholic. It seemed like his plan today was going to be a little hard to pull off. As the saying went, an expert's skill would be known the moment he made a move. Nothing happened to Lin Yi after one bottle. Jiang Wen understood that Lin Yi really was a drinker. Chapter 393. Chapter 393. Wait. Jiang Wen couldn't hold it in any longer. He spat it out and started coughing. Cough, cough. Cough, cough. Jiang Wen had tears coming out of his eyes from the spiciness of the leak. He'd never drunk alcohol in such a rush before. He had a tolerance, but his stomach and esophagus couldn't take it. Jiang Wen's face was white as a sheet as he coughed for a while, with Tai Zhao and Gang Lu patting his back nonstop. It took a while for the color to return to his face. However, under such circumstances, it was impossible for him to continue drinking. Jiang Wen looked at Lin Yi with a hint of venom in his eyes. This guy was a wolf in sheep's clothing. He knew how to drink, but he didn't say anything. He would have used this trick if he'd known. And bro, are you done? Shall we continue? Lin Yi's words almost made Jiang Wen cough again. Continue? Did he have a death wish? Jiang Wen's face was very ugly, and he wanted to go up and strangle Lin Yi. He was already like this, and the guy was still asking him to drink? Did he want to drink himself to death? He'd forgotten that he was the one who'd wanted to drink Lin Yi to death. Jiang Wen was in a difficult situation. He'd come here today to teach Lin Yi a lesson, but he didn't expect to run into Lin Yi's forte. He'd lose all his face if he gave up now, especially when he saw that Lin Yi was still fiddling with his phone. Jiang Wen knew that Lin Yi must have recorded everything. In an instant, feelings of humiliation, dissatisfaction, anger, and disgust intertwined and flashed through his heart. No, he couldn't give up. Meng Yao would laugh herself to death if he did. He wanted to teach Lin Yi a lesson, but he was the one being taught a lesson instead. What would happen to the face of the Songshan young masters if word got out? Especially after being taught a lesson the first time. This was the second time he came to seek revenge. How would Jiang Wen feel if he got taught a lesson the second time? Let me do it. Tai Wei knew that Jiang Wen wasn't going to be able to hold on much longer as soon as he saw the change in Jiang Wen's face. Tai Wei was the one with the best alcohol tolerance here, and if he didn't step up, no one would be a match for Lin Yi. He hoped that Lin Yi could only drink fast, and that his actual alcohol tolerance was not as good as his. Tai Wei calculated inwardly. He had a capacity for 5 bottles, and he didn't believe that Lin Yi could finish 5 bottles in one go and come out unscathed. "All right," Lin Yi said straightforwardly. "Are you all right?" "Of course," Tai Wei said with a cold smile. "Don't act all high and mighty. Let's see if you're still standing after 5 bottles. Do you think you're a roly-poly doll?" "Oh, sorry, I forgot. You're Wei Bro. Why can't Wei Bro?" Lin Yi opened the bottle of Baijiu and shook it in front of Tai Wei. "Damn it." Tai Wei cursed inwardly as he raised his bottle and started drinking with Lin Yi. Phew! Tai Wei let out a long breath after finishing the second bottle of Baijiu. His body felt like it was on fire, and he wanted to eat some food to calm it down, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. Because Lin Yi was sitting there with a straight face and a smile on his face, recording himself with his phone. Tai Wei was pissed off, but he couldn't just eat. He could only hold it in. "Tai Wei, eat something first. Weren't you complaining about being hungry before you came? The food's here now. Eat while it's hot." Tai Zhao could tell that his brother wasn't in a good state and helped him out without a word. Tai Wei quickly glanced at Tai Zhao. "Yeah, I came here on an empty stomach. I won't hold back then." With that, Tai Wei picked up his chopsticks and started wolfing down the food. Lin Yi looked at the Tai Wei and Tai Zhao brothers in disdain, but didn't voice it out. Since Wei Bro's already impotent. "Oh, hungry. Then, Tai Zhao Bro, do you want to continue on his behalf?" "All right, I'll drink with you." Tai Zhao nodded. "But I'm not a good drinker, huh? How about this? You drink it all at once, and I'll drink it in 2 portions." Tai Zhao had seen Jiang Wen's pitiful state, and he didn't have Tai Wei's tolerance level. His tolerance level was about the same as Jiang Wen's, so he might as well be generous and admit that he couldn't hold his liquor and drink it in 2 portions instead of making a fool out of himself. "Sure, no problem. You can even drink half of it." Lin Yi cursed the Su brothers inwardly for being shameless, but he still said it generously. Tai Zhao's heart almost exploded with regret at Lin Yi's words. He could drink half of it? Why didn't you say so earlier? He wouldn't have to drink it in 2 portions if he had. But as shameless as Tai Zhao was, it wasn't to the point of shamelessness. He couldn't go back on his words now. Lin Yi, on the other hand, downed the bottle of Maodai without a change in his expression, and Tai Zhao drank it in 2 portions. He didn't spit the alcohol out like Jiang Wen, but he wasn't much better. He sat there motionlessly, evidently choked by the spiciness. His face was bright red, and there were tears in his eyes. He was trying his best not to cough. Like a statue, he stood there motionless. In fact, Tai Zhao didn't dare move at all. He was afraid that he'd spit the alcohol out if he moved. "Wei Bro, I don't think your brother can do it. He's not as good as Wei Bro. What do you think? Shall we continue?" Lin Yi said as he looked at Tai Wei, who was eating as fast as he could. "All right, let's continue." Tai Wei nodded as he wiped his mouth. He'd eaten quite a bit just now, and he'd recovered quite a bit. Another bottle shouldn't be a problem for him, but he understood now that Lin Yi's alcohol tolerance was higher than his. After all, Lin Yi had already downed 4 bottles. Lin Yi finished the 5th bottle without any suspense. Tai Wei went to rest, and it was Gong Lu's turn. Gang Lu said shamelessly, "I'll drink half of it. I really can't hold my liquor. I'll go first as a sign of respect." With that, Gang Lu raised his bottle and downed half of it, as if he was afraid that Lin Yi would go back on his words. "Wait." Gang Lu put down the bottle before Lin Yi could finish. "Oh, Brother Lin, something's up?" Gang Lu thought to himself. That had been a close shave. Lin Yi might have gone back on his words if he'd been 1 step slower. What he'd said to Tai Zhao earlier was probably just to piss him off. There was no way he'd let Tai Zhao off the hook that easily. And so, Gang Lu was very excited at his own cleverness. He was the strategist after all, and there was no point in saying anything else now. "What do you want? What can you do?" Chapter 394. How should I drink? Is that so? Brother Lin, tell me then. I'll pay attention next time. Gang Lu thought to himself, but was too late. What I'm trying to say is that you can't hold your liquor well, so you should drink less. It's usually too much, a third is fine. Lin said, what? Gang Lu felt his blood rush to his head, and the alcohol rushed to his head as well. He almost passed out. A third was fine? A third? Why didn't he say that earlier? Why? Jiang Wen, Tai Zhao, and Tai Wei were all looking at Gang Lu with sympathy and indignation. It wasn't that Lin, he didn't have the time to tell him. He could have said it when Gang Lu was drinking. There was no need to wait for him to finish before saying it. One thing was for sure. Lin, he was toying with Gang Lu. No matter how much Gang Lu drank, Lin, he would always say something to piss him off. As the saying goes, the onlooker sees the game more clearly than the onlooker. Gang Lu, on the other hand, couldn't see through Jiang Wen's ploy. He felt that he was a strategist, someone with superior intelligence, someone who specialized in scheming against people. But in the end, he'd never schemed against Lin Yi. How could he accept this? He didn't need to drink that much, and yet he'd stupidly drank half a bottle. What a strategist. Gang Lu's eyes were seeing stars, and the alcohol kicked in when he got angry, causing him to collapse on the table. Jiang Wen frowned. Wasn't this Gang Lu's mental fortitude a little too weak? How was he supposed to be a strategist like this? But everyone else at the table had taken turns drinking with Lin Yi, and the kid had drunk 6 bottles of baijiu already. Why was he still acting like nothing had happened? Did he grow up in a wine vat? But Jiang Wen couldn't just let it go. There was no way he was going to stop now that the fight had started. Wouldn't stopping mean he was admitting defeat to Lin Yi? Fuck. Admitting defeat was fine if no one was watching, but Lin Yi was playing with his phone, recording everything that was going on. His image would be ruined if Meng Yao saw this. Let's continue. Tai Wei gritted his teeth. House Su wasn't like Housen, and they had to rely on Jiang Wen for a lot of business. His cousin was one of the Songshan young masters, but his influence was far below House An's. Housen had some influence in the province, while House Su's was limited to Songshan. Housen had some influence in the province, but Su's House Su's was limited to Songshan. Haha, I was just worried that I wouldn't have an opponent. Lin, he said as he eyed Tai Wei. The guy was really putting his life on the line. Tai Wei opened a bottle of Mao Tai, hesitating for a bit before asking, 3. His limit was 5 bottles, but that was limited to drinking slowly and steadily. He wouldn't be able to last much longer if he kept drinking like this. His stomach was hurting, and Tai Wei had no choice but to show his weakness. He wanted to ask Lin if he could drink 1/3 of what he said earlier. But Lin, he didn't give Tai Wei a chance to speak. Wei bro is the best, not like that weak guy from before. He passed out after drinking half a bottle. Wei bro chugged it down to the bottle. Nothing happened. How else would he call him Wei bro? He'd just call him weak bro, right? Tai Wei's face was green. Can't you fucking wait until I'm done? Can you? Can you? Tai Wei was cursing, but Lin Yi's words had already goaded him to this point. He couldn't bring up the 1/3 thing anymore. Wouldn't that make him weak bro? Tai Wei had no choice but to say, all right, but I didn't drink it in a rush. Please forgive me. Haha, it's fine. Lin Yi smiled as he raised the bottle in front of him and downed it in one gulp. Tai Wei sighed. He had no choice but to copy Lin Yi, picking up the bottle and chugging it down one mouthful at a time. He had to change his breath a couple of times in between before finishing the bottle. It seemed like Tai Wei was at his limit now. Tai Wei wanted to cry when he saw that Lin Yi was fine, his face still red and without a hint of tiredness. How the hell did he have to compete in drinking with a psycho like this? He wouldn't have competed in drinking if he'd known this was going to happen, even if he had to compete in eating shit. Should we continue? Tai Wei couldn't take it anymore. He downed 4 bottles already, and while 5 was usually his limit, he'd basically throw up afterwards. But he couldn't do that now, and could only hold it in. Not anymore. Lin, he shook his head, and Tai Wei let out a long sigh of relief. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao, on the other hand, let out a sigh of relief as well. But they were a little weird. Why wasn't Lin Yi continuing? Could he be at his limit as well? That couldn't be. But it was fine as long as he didn't continue. It didn't matter if he was at his limit or if he'd found his conscience. It's good that he's not continuing. There's no point in competing like this anymore. It's so boring drinking bottle after bottle. Tai Wei said in agreement. It is, and that's why I've decided to stop. Lin Yi smiled. Let's play something more interesting, shall we? What's interesting? Tai Wei suddenly felt that something was wrong when he saw that bright smile on Lin Yi's face. Had he been tricked? What was Lin Yi up to? Waiter, bring me some red wine. Lin Yi called out to the door. Oh, red wine? Tai Wei blinked, but was overjoyed. The alcohol content of red wine was far lower than white wine, and he'd be able to hold out for a while if they'd switched to red wine. Tai Wei felt that Lin Yi was probably at his limit as well. He'd had 4 bottles, but Lin Yi had 7. What did 7 bottles of white wine mean? He'd be lucky if he didn't drink himself to death. Perhaps Lin Yi was just putting on a good show, making people think that he was fine. Otherwise, why would he switch to red wine? Tai Wei was afraid that Lin Yi would change his mind again, and quickly called out, Waiter, red wine. Hurry up. Yes, coming. The waiter carried a case of red wine into the room. He'd had experience with beer and white wine before, so he didn't need to be told to bring the case of red wine in. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao breathed out in relief as well. They'd really been afraid that Tai Wei wouldn't be able to hold out and collapse, but it was fine now. Tai Wei would definitely be able to hold out for a while if they were competing in red wine. Jiang Wen put the 2 bottles on the table, one for Lin Yi and the other in front of Tai Wei. Chapter 395. Drinking so much that he's vomiting blood. You'll drink however I say? Lin Yi raised the bottle of red wine as he looked at Tai Wei. The initiative was now in Lin Yi's hands. Lin Yi had somehow become the owner of this room. Yes, we'll drink however you say. Tai Wei nodded. Who was he afraid of when it came to drinking red wine? All right. Lin Yi put down the bottle of red wine and stood up, walking to the sterilized cupboard at the side of the room. He took out 2 large beer mugs, putting one in front of Tai Wei and the other back on his seat. Tai Wei didn't understand what Lin Yi was doing with the mugs. Was he going to pour out? Red wine could be drunk from the mouth, too. As Tai Wei, Jiang Wen, and Tai Zhao were wondering what was going on, Lin Yi opened the bottle of red wine and poured all into the large beer mug in front of him. Tai Wei was about to do the same when he saw Lin Yi pick up another can of beer from the table, opening it and pouring it into the mug. The corner of Tai Wei's mouth twitched. Mixing red wine and beer? It'd be one thing if it were regular beer, but this high alcohol content beer. But it was still way better than drinking white wine. Tai Wei gritted his teeth. It was still acceptable. And so, he followed Lin Yi's example and poured the red wine and beer into the mug. But just as he was about to say something, Lin Yi moved again. This time, Lin Yi opened a bottle of white wine and poured it into the mug as well. Wah! Tai Wei was dumbfounded. White wine, red wine, beer, and white wine mixed together. Wouldn't that kill him? Drinking a small glass or 2 normally wouldn't be a problem. In fact, Tai Wei would often show off his special skill to the wine merchants as well, drinking red, white, and yellow wine at the same time, leaving them in awe. Tai Wei would enjoy it every time he did that, proud and arrogant. He was proud of his special skill. But now, Tai Wei's ultimate technique was nothing more than a joke in front of this huge mug of beer. Drinking a small cup was fine, but drinking such a large beer mug, wasn't that courting death? Lin Yi didn't care what Tai Wei was thinking. He picked up his beer mug and raised it at Tai Wei. Come on, let's continue. Tai Wei was so regretful he was about to explode. He'd thought that Lin Yi only wanted red wine, and that was why he'd said that he could drink whatever he wanted. But now that Lin Yi wanted this mixed wine, there was nothing he could do even if he didn't want to. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao, on the other hand, didn't know what to do. They couldn't help Tai Wei at all, so they could only support him mentally. Lin Yi downed the entire mug of mixed wine in one go as he looked at Tai Wei with a smile. Tai Wei had no choice but to force himself to pick up his mug and finish it all in one go. Tai Wei's face was a mix of red and white after drinking it, and it was as fascinating as it could get. He clutched his stomach with one hand as beads of sweat formed on his forehead. Tai Wei felt like he was going to die. His stomach felt like it was going to explode, and he felt like he was going to break down at any moment. But he couldn't lose face. Absolutely not. Good. Wei Bro is indeed stronger than most people. Lin Yi nodded in praise. Huh. Tai Wei wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He could only smile helplessly at Lin Yi's praise. He'd rather be a bad bro than Wei Bro right now. Let's continue. It's more interesting this way. Lin Yi said as he went to get a few more bottles of red wine, putting a few in front of Tai Wei and a few in front of himself. Lin Yi continued mixing the mixed wine, and Tai Wei had no choice but to follow Lin Yi's lead. Lin Yi raised his mug, downing it even faster than water. Tai Wei took a deep breath and started pouring the wine down his throat as well, but he couldn't take it any more halfway through. He felt like his stomach wasn't his anymore. It was squirming rapidly, and with a puff he spat out all the wine he'd drunk earlier, mixed with a large amount of blood. Cough, cough, cough. Tai Wei started coughing loudly, spitting out large amounts of blood with each cough. Tai Wei, what's wrong? Tai Zhao jumped as he hurried over to support Tai Wei, patting his back lightly, but the coughing didn't stop. Tai Wei was still coughing out large mouthfuls of blood. Tai Zhao, get Tai Wei to the hospital. Jiang Wen frowned. He could tell that Tai Wei was at his limit today. He'd forced the last 2 glasses of mixed wine down his throat. It wouldn't have mattered if it had been regular baijiu, but it had to be mixed. How could he not be in trouble? I'm fine. I think it's stomach bleeding. Finally, Tai Wei stopped coughing. He'd choked on a mixture of wine and blood earlier, which was why he couldn't stop coughing. Tai Wei waved his hand. I'll go to the hospital myself. Jiang Wen bro, cousin, I'll leave this to you guys. We'll send you. Tai Zhao was very worried about Tai Wei's condition. No, all my hard work would go to waste if I surrender now. Tai Wei shook his head, not wanting to surrender just like that. All right, be careful. Jiang Wen sighed. Call me when you get to the hospital. Got it, and bro. Tai Wei endured the pain as he limped out of the room, running down the stairs quickly. Brother Lin, look, Tai Wei's got his stomach bleeding. Shouldn't we drink a little more gracefully? Tai Zhao's eyes were filled with hatred as he spoke. Tai Wei was his cousin. After all, how could he not be pissed off that he was in the hospital? Jiang Wen's face was dark as well, not smiling at all. He probably hated Lin Yi as well. Stomach bleeding? I think it's a stomach perforation. Lin Yi shook his head. Don't die. What? Stomach perforation? Tai Zhao was shocked. Why didn't you say so earlier? You didn't ask me. Lin Yi shrugged. I could have given him a massage. Maybe it'd even stopped the bleeding. It was only then that Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao remembered that Lin Yi seemed to know medicine, and that he wasn't weak at all. It was Lin Yi who'd saved Jiang Wen when he got food poisoning last time. Chapter 396. How could you bite the hand that fed you? Tai Zhao was filled with hatred as well. Why didn't you say so earlier if you could stop the bleeding? Why did you have to wait until Tai Wei was gone for a while before telling him that you did it on purpose? It was evidently impossible to chase after Tai Wei now, since he'd run out at top speed. He should be in a taxi by now, and they could only pray that he made it to the hospital safely. Ha! Brother Lin's right. We've all had too much to drink and forgot about that. Jiang Wen shot Tai Zhao a look, telling him not to do anything rash. Tai Wei didn't say anything else as he took in a deep breath to calm himself down. I'm going to the washroom. We'll continue later. Lin Yi stood up. This time, he didn't choose to leave the room. Instead, he walked into the washroom. He'd drunk so many bottles of wine. Even water would have been enough for Lin Yi to go to the washroom. And bro, don't let this kid go so easily. Tai Zhao said in a low voice after Lin Yi entered the washroom. I'll make him pay for making Tai Wei bleed. Jiang Wen nodded. Plan B. Tell the waiter not to open the door no matter what happens in the room. Haha, I've been telling you. That's a good move. Tai Zhao said happily as he left the room to give the waiter some instructions. Jiang Wen, on the other hand, made a call to his driver. Bring the inflatable doll up. Is it reliable? Is it effective? Tai Zhao was starting to worry again. It should work, Jiang Wen said. Sihua bro gave it to me. It'll be fine. He said it's the most advanced medicine, called Invincible 80 or something. With that, Jiang Wen poured 3 glasses of red wine and poured a bag of powder into Lin Yi's glass. That's good. Haha, we'll have some fun now. Tai Wei tried his best to suppress his laughter, not letting it get too loud and attract Lin Yi's attention. Why is this guy taking so long to pee? He's not taking a dump, is he? I also want to go pee. I drank too much just now. Now that you mention it, I'm thinking of going too. Jiang Wen frowned as well. Why was Lin Yi taking so long? Lin Yi had actually pulled up his pants a long time ago. He'd only been eavesdropping on Jiang Wen and Tai Wei's conversation in the washroom. A cold smile flashed across his face. These two hadn't given up yet. They still wanted to play tricks. Inflatable doll? This in Jiang Wen was too mean. Lin Yi pushed open the washroom door, acting like he didn't know anything as he waved his hand apologetically to Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. I'm sorry. I drank too much, so my stomach's a little watery. It's been a little long, haven't it? It's fine. We'll go to the washroom as well. Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao couldn't hold it in any longer as they stood up and ran into the washroom. Lin Yi smiled coldly. If these two hadn't been in a hurry to pee, he'd have done it in the washroom himself. He'd just have to drag it out a little longer. Lin Yi looked at the 3 glasses of red wine on the table and smiled. He quickly poured one of the glasses in front of Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao into the corner and took the other one in front of him. After doing all this, Lin Yi poured half of the red wine that Jiang Wen had tampered with into the empty glass and filled up the 2 glasses with the red wine before returning to his seat. After a while, Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao walked out of the washroom to see Lin Yi fiddling with his phone. They thought that he was going to record again, but Lin Yi said, "Let's drink a little more and eat. Miss Chu called me just now, telling me to go back as soon as possible." Oh, Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao looked at each other, overjoyed. There were 2 reasons for this. One was that they were thinking about how to get Lin Yi to drink a glass of red wine, and now Lin Yi was asking to solve it himself. The other was that Lin Yi was talking on the phone in the room, and they didn't hear anything in the washroom at all. This also meant that Lin Yi, who was in the washroom, couldn't hear what they were talking about in the room. This meant that their plan would be exposed. All right, we'll do that then. I poured 3 glasses of red wine just now, and since Brother Lin said so, let's drink one last glass. Tai Zhao smiled as he raised his glass. I'll finish this first. All right, it'll be the last glass then. Lin Yi nodded and raised his glass as well. Jiang Wen was overjoyed as well, and so the 3 of them finished their drinks and started eating. Why am I so hot? I'm still a little dizzy, Lin Yi said after eating 2 mouthfuls of food, holding his forehead. In fact, he didn't know what the Invincible 80 looked like when it acted up, but he knew that it wouldn't be this soon. Huh. Jiang Wen laughed upon hearing Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi had fallen for it, and he wasn't afraid of Lin Yi anymore. It didn't matter if they fell out. As expected, Lin Yi's symptoms were more or less the same as what Sihua had told him. It seemed like the drug was acting up. What are you laughing at? Lin Yi asked curiously. Haha, Lin, you don't know, do you? You've fallen for the Invincible 80's aphrodisiac, and it's acting up now. You'll lose your mind soon. Jiang Wen laughed. I drugged the red wine you were drinking just now. Why'd you do that? Lin Yi looked at Jiang Wen, a little pissed off. Why? Haha, since you want to know why, I'll tell you then. Jiang Wen said, you beat us up last time, and we were planning to drink you into the hospital this time, but we didn't expect you to drink so much that Tai Wei ended up in the hospital instead. You perforated my brother's stomach. How could I let you get away with that? Tai Zhao followed up. Lin Yi, the drug's going to get stronger and stronger, and you'll feel really bad if you don't vent it out. But don't worry, and Bro and I prepared a blow-up doll for you. Look at how thoughtful we are. You? Lin Yi's eyes were wide open as he looked at Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao in disbelief. You two are treating me like this? Jiang Wen, I saved your life, and not only do you not know how to repay me, you're even trying to hurt me. How can you bite the hand that fed you? Chapter 397. Save it for yourself. Someone knocked on the door at that moment, and Tai Zhao opened it to see Jiang Wen's driver standing there with a silk bag in his hands, evidently the blow-up doll inside. Tai Zhao took the bag and turned to Jiang Wen's driver. All right, tell the waiters to stay away. Don't come any closer. Tell them not to come close no matter what happens in the room. Yes, Master Su. Jiang Wen's driver nodded and went to do his work. Haha, Lin Yi, I prepared the blow-up doll for you. What do you think? Not bad, right? Tai Zhao said as he went to open the bag. All right, I guess I'm unlucky. Have you guys heard of Mr. Donghua's story? Lin Yi sighed as he looked at Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao. Mr. Donghua's story? What do you mean? Jiang Wen paused, not understanding why Lin Yi was still in the mood to talk about Mr. Donghua's story at a time like this. You haven't heard of it either? Lin Yi looked at Tai Zhao. Lin Yi, the drug's about to take effect. You should think about how you're going to deal with it. Do you want the blow-up doll, or do you want us to find you a prostitute? Tai Zhao curled his lips, not answering Lin Yi's question. In his eyes, Lin Yi was now a prey for anyone to butcher. All he had to do was record a video of the drug's effect, and he'd be fired by Meng Yao. Or maybe we can help you find a female pig. Jiang Wen couldn't help but add, thinking that Lin Yi's story was completely ridiculous at this time. Huh. Tai Zhao started laughing at Jiang Wen's joke as well. Lin Yi looked at the two with pity. Since you guys don't know, I'll tell you a story then. It's about Mr. Donghua and the wolf. Are you sick? Jiang Wen looked at Lin Yi oddly. He didn't know if the guy was really stupid or not. The drug was about to take effect, and yet he still had the time to study Mr. Donghua and the wolf. Lin Yi ignored Jiang Wen and started his story. Once upon a time, there was a scholar named Mr. Donghua. One day, Mr. Donghua had to go to a faraway place. On the way, a wounded wolf suddenly rushed in front of him and begged, "Sir, I am being chased by a hunter. He has wounded me with an arrow. Please save me. I will repay you well." Although Mr. Donghua knew that wolves were bad by nature, he still felt sorry for this wolf. After hesitating for a moment, he decided to hide it in his book bag. After a while, the hunter caught up to them and realized that the wolf had disappeared. There was only Mr. Donghua sitting by the roadside. Hence, he asked Mr. Donghua, "Did you see a wolf?" Mr. Donghua said, "I didn't see anything." The hunter didn't think that Mr. Donghua would lie to him, so he went to look elsewhere. The wolf heard that the hunter was far away, so it came out of the bag. However, it didn't go to repay Mr. Donghua. Instead, it pounced at Mr. Donghua, baring its fangs and claws. "I'm hungry. Do another good deed. Let me eat you," and then that idiot Mr. Donghua got eaten by a wolf. Don't tell me you're that Mr. Donghua. Huh. Jiang Wen, naturally, knew what Lin Yi was implying, but he didn't mind it at all. He started laughing loudly. No, the hunter came back and killed the wolf. Lin Yi said faintly, "This proves that good will be rewarded, evil will be punished. It's not that the time isn't right yet." What do you mean? Jiang Wen paused, vaguely sensing that there was something else in Lin Yi's words, but he couldn't figure out what Lin Yi was talking about. It's nothing. It's not that the time isn't right yet. Lin Yi smiled. What time isn't right yet? Lin Yi, what the hell are you mumbling about? What do you mean? Jiang Wen was getting a little angry. The medicine. You two ate that invincible 8-0 thing. It's probably going to take effect soon, right? Lin Yi said. What invincible 8-0? How did we eat it? Didn't you eat it? Jiang Wen paused. I'm sorry, but I split that glass of red wine into two, half for you and half for him. Lin Yi smiled. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How did you know that I was going to drug you? Jiang Wen's face changed. He didn't really believe what Lin Yi was saying, but Lin Yi's words made sense. Most importantly, why did he feel like his body was heating up? Oh, you can look inside the bottle if you don't believe me. Lin Yi pointed at the bottle on the table. Look, there's still some left after pouring out 3 glasses. For glasses is just right. Jiang Wen paused as he looked at the bottle. He was the one who poured out the red wine before, so naturally he knew how much was left. Now that he looked at the bottle, there was only a bottom. Someone must have poured out some more. Could it be that Lin Yi was telling the truth? Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao's faces changed at the thought. They were already feeling hot, and now they felt even hotter. And bro, do you have the antidote? Tai Zhao was starting to panic. No. Jiang Wen shook his head and looked at Lin Yi with a venomous look. Did you really switch the wine for me? You'll know soon enough. Lin Yi said as he stood up. I'll keep the blow-up doll for yourself. I'm leaving. But don't take it. It'll be bad if we get into a fight. Before Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao could react, Lin Yi was already out of the room, locking the door from the outside with a metal wire. Jiang Wen and his driver had told them not to have any waiters outside, and even Jiang Wen's driver was standing at the end of the hallway. Mr. Lin, why did you come out? Where's Master In and the others? Jiang Wen's driver didn't see Lin Yi lock the door, but asked curiously when he saw Lin Yi walking over. Oh, they're in the room, playing a new game. They told you not to disturb them. Lin Yi said. All right. Jiang Wen's driver nodded. He didn't know about the conflict between Jiang Wen and Lin Yi, so he thought that Jiang Wen had sent Lin Yi out to talk to him. Mr. Lin, are you going? I'm going back to do something for him, bro. Lin Yi smiled. I'll be leaving first. Do you need me to drive you? Jiang Wen's driver said eagerly. Chapter 398. Chapter 398. Kong Xiaobo's parents' attitude. Jing Wen, Tai Zhao, and Gonglu's phones were all taken by Lin Yi, and so they were in the room, completely isolated from the outside world. They couldn't contact anyone outside, even if they wanted to. He didn't know if their medicine would work, but even if it didn't, they'd probably be scared out of their wits, right? Jiang Wen's driver sent Lin Yi off the car respectfully. Watching as Lin Yi entered the villa before driving away. Shield bro, you're back? Hee hee, Yao Yao missed you just now. Yushu said with a smile as she walked up to Lin Yi. Shu, don't say that. When did I miss him? Meng Yao frowned. I wanted you to call him and ask him if he's okay. Huh? Then do you want me to be okay? Lin Yi asked with a smile. Meng Yao wanted to say that of course she did, since that was what she'd been thinking as well. She'd agreed to let Lin Yi go eat with Jiang Wen because she wanted to use Jiang Wen to teach Lin Yi a lesson for trying to peek at her and Yushu's wishes today. But her anger had passed, and Meng Yao didn't want Lin Yi to be okay. She wanted to see how Lin Yi was going to deal with Jiang Wen. You're back in one piece. It's obvious that you're fine. What does it matter if I don't want it or not? Meng Yao said faintly. Lin Yi was used to the Mrs. Cold exterior, but warm interior. He smiled and didn't say anything. I'll let you guys watch the video. I'll go take a shower first. I reek of alcohol. Another video? Oh, that's great. I thought there wouldn't be one this time. Yushu excitedly took over Lin Yi's phone and started playing the video. Meng Yao said that she wasn't interested, but she still moved her head closer when Yushu started playing. Lin Yi went back to his room to take a shower while Yushu and Meng Yao sat on the sofa, watching a video. Yushu exclaimed when she saw Lin Yi drinking with the other four. Wow, Yao Yao, Shield Bro's so good. He can drink so much. What's so good about drinking? Meng Yao curled her lips. Mommy wouldn't have left home if Daddy hadn't been busy with social activities. You can't say that, hee hee. I think the way Shield Bro drinks is so cool. Yushu said disapprovingly. Shu, how can you be so infatuated? Meng Yao scolded. It's nothing, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Yushu blushed as she shook her head. Meng Yao didn't smile much, but the way Lin Yi dealt with Jiang Wen, Tai Zhao, and Ganglu was quite amused, especially Tai Wei coughing up blood. It was like something out of a comedy, and it wasn't scary at all. Instead, it was hilarious. Yao Yao, I remember that in Tang Bohu's Fragrance of Autumn, there was a guy coughing up blood like that, right? Yushu said after some thought. I think so. He's an advisor? Gonglu's an advisor too, and he got so pissed off by Lin Yi that he fainted. Meng Yao had to admit that Lin Yi's words were quite hurtful, but that was only limited to the people involved. Watching the video as a bystander was still very satisfying. Meng Yao and Yushu were even more speechless. Weren't Jiang Wen and Tai Zhao a little too much? But Lin Yi's last sentence, telling them to keep it for themselves, made Meng Yao feel very comforted. It seemed that Lin Yi wasn't that perverted after all, not even interested in a blow-up doll. Yeah, what does a blow-up doll look like? I've never seen one before. Maybe we should go take a look sometime? Yushu suggested curiously. What are you looking at? Look at your ass. Meng Yao glared at Yushu, speechless. How can we go into an adult toy store like that? Oh, maybe we can get Shield Bro to buy one and we can study it? Yushu said after some thought. No, what if he uses it secretly? That's disgusting. Meng Yao, of course, wouldn't agree. Yushu gave up after seeing that Meng Yao wasn't agreeable to it. Kong Xiaobo returned home with a worried heart, but what confused him was that the storm he'd been expecting wasn't coming. Kong Xiaobo was prepared for his parents' lecture before he got home. Xiaobo's back? Kong Fu and Kong Mu were both sitting on the sofa, their faces serious but not angry. This surprised Kong Xiaobo a little. Dad, Mom, I'm back. Kong Xiaobo nodded. I went to the bookstore and I got too engrossed in it. That's why I was late. Bookstore? What books? Kong Fu paused when he saw the bag in Kong Xiaobo's hands. Some stuff about business management. Kong Xiaobo didn't hide it. His parents would find out about it eventually, so he might as well tell them now in case they couldn't accept it later. Business management? Kong Fu couldn't help but frown. You're not buying books about studying, but business management? Aren't you biting off more than you can chew? Are you stimulated by the banquet today, and you want to make a career? But you haven't even been admitted to college yet. Why are you reading business management? Even if you learn it, do you think there are companies that want you? Even if there are companies that want you, aren't you just a small staff member? They're just small staff members after graduating from college. You haven't gone to college yet. Kong Fu opened a small tea house. The business wasn't good, but wasn't bad either. He knew that it wasn't easy to make money. So when he heard that Kong Xiaobo wanted to learn business management, he immediately began to lecture. Yeah, Xiaobo, your father and I don't support or oppose the relationship between you and that girl. So you don't need to rush to make a career and prove yourself, Kong Xiaobo's mother said with a little concern. Dad, Mom, I have a company that wants me now, but I don't have the ability to do it. When Kong Xiaobo saw his parents look, he knew that they misunderstood. So he explained helplessly. A company wants you? You don't have the ability to do it? Kong Fu was stunned. Xiaobo, what do you mean? You don't know anything, and there are companies that want you? Yeah, the boss is going to open a pharmaceutical company, and he asked me to help. I don't know anything. I have to learn. Kong Xiaobo spread his hands and said with a bitter smile. Chapter 399. Kong Ming Ming. Vomiting and diarrhea. Although Mr. Kong said that about his son, his tone wasn't very strict. Once upon a time, when he was his son's age, he didn't know how high the sky was and how far the sea was. He saw his second uncle's family getting better day by day, and he wanted to make a career out of it. However, the hardships of life and the torment of the years had already obliterated his edge. He wanted to make a career out of it, but he could only manage this tea house cautiously. He had become a good guy who had to take into account all aspects and offend people here and there if he wasn't careful. He didn't want his son to go from hope to disappointment like him, so he had to make things clear in advance. The idea was good, but it was hard to do it. Taking a sip of tea, Kong Fu continued, I think you should focus on your studies and put aside the management stuff for now. When there's a big company that wants you, you can learn it then. I don't have to buy management books for a small company. Kong Xiaobo smiled bitterly. Boss is investing in big companies. He's planning to open a medical company with Guan Xiumin, and he's planning to invest 100 million in the beginning. Puffed. Kong Fu spat out the tea in his mouth. Cough, cough. What? Guan Xiumin? 100 million? Yeah, Dad. Do you think I'd be under so much pressure? Someone like me, who doesn't know anything, has to help manage such a big company. How can I not learn? Kong Xiaobo found his father's expression funny, but he was very proud of himself. Didn't you say your son couldn't do it? So what if he couldn't do it? He had a good boss. My God, how much is 100 million? Kong Mu's eyes widened as well. Your dad's tea house is at most a few million, and that includes the house. Father Kong glared at Mother Kong and said, You might think 100 million is a lot, but in my uncle's eyes, it's nothing. His family's business is worth at least $1 billion. However, Investing $100 million in a company in the early stages is considered a big company. Xiaobo, if you really can't do it, then don't force yourself. What will you do if you lose their money for nothing? That second uncle of yours? Look at his attitude towards our Xiaobo today. What a piece of trash. Kangmu didn't think so. Xiaobo, Mom supports you. Since your eldest brother trusts you so much, you should repay him well. Make a career and show your second grandpa's family. And I know, Kang Xiaobo clenched his fist. Boss told me the same thing. At this point, Mr. Kang couldn't say anything more. He could only silently bless and support his son. Xiaobo, since you've made up your mind, do it well. Don't let us down. Well, then I'll go back to my room first. Today's events have given me too much psychological impact. One after another, I feel like I'm dreaming. I need to digest and sort out, Kang Xiaobo said with some embarrassment. Mr. Kang nodded, but he smiled bitterly in his heart. Not to mention a child like you, even a person like me who has been through a lot, would be so shocked that I almost dropped the teacup in my hand when I heard this news from you. After Kang Xiaobo left, Kang Mu's face was filled with excitement. I said that our son is amazing. Look, isn't our family going to have a comeback? Let's see if your second uncle still has to look at us in the eye. Guan Shuamin, Miracle Dr. Guan, is much better than your second uncle. That half-baked miracle doctor. Nothing has been set in stone yet. Why are you saying all this? Moreover, you can only encourage him, not praise him. Kids are easy to get carried away. Don't make Xiaobo's ego inflate. It will be disadvantageous to him. Kung Fu said seriously. Don't talk about this anymore. We'll just watch silently. All right, I'll listen to you. Kang Mu nodded. She naturally understood that what Kung Fu said was right. Old Kong, why don't you ask about Xiaofun? Don't you want to talk to your son? You should at least ask what's going on, right? Since he doesn't support or oppose it, why ask so much? Kung Fu shook his head. Think about it. I think half of Xiaobo's motivation comes from that girl. So why should we care so much? If Xiaobo really becomes outstanding one day, Xiaofun will be the hero. If you want to break up with Xiaofun, we won't agree to it. But on the other hand, if she leads Xiaobo astray, we have to break them up no matter what. What you said makes sense. Now that you said it, it does make sense. Kang Mu nodded. Then, we won't say anything else. At night, Kang Mingming found out that he started to vomit and have diarrhea. At first, it scared the Kang family as they thought he was poisoned. Dad, I said that Kang Xiaobo must have bad intentions. He sent us poison. Kang Suepu saw his son suffering. His eyes were red. He had the urge to kill Kang Xiaobo. Dr. Kang frowned. He looked at Kang Mingming, who was lying on the bed. He was puzzled. Was Kang Xiaobo really not afraid of anything? He sent a poison without any hesitation. Zhao Ming, how do you feel? Do we need to go to the hospital? Dr. Kang looked at his grandson and asked worriedly. Although he didn't love his grandson as much as his eldest grandson, he was still his grandson. How could he not feel heartache? Grandpa, Kang Mingming squeezed a smile on his pale face. I feel like my body doesn't belong to me anymore. I feel like I'm floating. If I die, will I be considered a hero of the Kang family? You can't die. You are now a hero of the Kang family. Dr. Kang was touched. Whether it works or not, I will give you 5% of the Kang family shares as a reward. Thank you, Grandpa, but I don't need it. Just give it to my dad. Kang Mingming said intermittently. Zhao Ming, don't scare Dad. If you die, what use do I have for the shares? Kang Suepu heard Kang Mingming's words and jumped at him. Zhao Ming, why don't we go to the hospital? You can't stay like this. Suepu was panicking when Kang Xiaoming blinked at him. We can't. We can't go to the hospital. We can't let people know that we picked up Xiaobo's pills again. They'll laugh at us. I can't do that even if I die. We can't lose face for House Kang. Suepu said. Chapter 400. It really works, but he didn't say it aloud. He pretended to be pitiful, trying to get Dr. Kang's sympathy and get some benefits for himself. Suepu and Kang Mingming were the same kind of people, both sly and cunning. The father wouldn't have given a fake ginseng, and the son a fake prescription otherwise. So, Kong Suepu immediately understood what Kong Xiaoming was implying. Kong Xiaoming was fine, he was just pretending. Suepu didn't show it on his face, but he was praising his son on the inside. The pupil had surpassed the master, and was even more devious than he was. Good kid, truly a good kid. Dr. Kong couldn't help but cry at Kong Mingming's words. Xiaolong, if you can't go to the hospital, why don't you take a look at Xiaoming and check his pulse? All right, Grandpa. Xiaolong looked at Kong Mingming's acting with cold eyes. As his cousin, he knew exactly what kind of person Kong Mingming was. He was a schemer and a coward since he was young. Why wouldn't he go to the hospital if he really couldn't make it? Xiaolong guessed that Kong Mingming was most likely faking it, but he couldn't say it aloud. It wasn't the right time to say such things, but Xiaolong was a little jealous of Kong Mingming. He was the genius of the family, his grandpa's favorite, but Kong Mingming got lucky and ate a pill that made him the center of attention. If he'd known this would happen, he'd have taken it himself. Of course, if Xiaolong had asked to test the pill himself, Dr. Kong wouldn't have agreed. Xiaolong was the future of House Kong, after all. Even if he knew that the pill wouldn't kill him, Dr. Kong wouldn't risk letting Xiaolong try it. Xiaolong's heart calmed down a little at the thought. He walked over and held Xiaolong's wrist, checking his pulse. It was weak, but it was fine. Xiaolong was a meticulous man, and he noticed that the pores on Kong Mingming's body were covered in a layer of yellow and black oil. What's this? Out of your body? Kong Mingming was too focused on his vomiting and diarrhea to notice that there was a layer of stickiness on his body. What? What is this? Bone and marrow cleansing? Could it really be the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Xiaolong looked at the stuff coming out of Kong Mingming's body in shock. Yes, it should be. I've seen descriptions of bone and marrow cleansing in some ancient medical books, and this is the effect. It really is the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Dr. Kong was also very surprised. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel a little regretful. How good would it be if he had eaten it? Kong Mingming was so young. Why would he need to expel poison? He was the one who should be prolonging his lifespan and expelling the poison. However, the remaining half obviously couldn't be eaten. It had to be sent to the group's research institute for analysis and testing. It shouldn't be wrong. Xiaolong nodded. But the effects aren't that obvious when used on Xiaoming. One reason is because he's young, and there's less poison in his body. The other reason is that he only ate half of it. All right, Xiaolong, bring the other half of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing to our company's research center immediately. We'll analyze and test the ingredients. If we can get our hands on the recipe of this pill, then Miracle Dr. Kang's brand will definitely rise to new heights. Miracle Dr. Kong ordered excitedly. Yes, Grandpa. Xiaolong nodded, smiling bitterly on the inside. It wasn't that easy to analyze the ingredients. It'd be fine if it were just regular ingredients, but if there were some strange herbs added in, there was basically no hope of getting anything out of it. In the intensive care unit of a high-end hospital in Donghai City, an old man lay weakly on the bed. In the outer room of his ward, a square-faced man was discussing with the doctor in a low voice. If my father doesn't have a kidney transplant, how long can he last? Less than a month. The doctor shook his head. We've done our best. What's the hope of getting a kidney transplant? The man asked. This man was Fatty Lai's brother, Chang Tian. It's okay to spend money. Mr. Lai, forgive me for being blunt, but Mr. Lai's condition is very bad. If we get a kidney transplant right now, I'm afraid he won't even be able to get off the operating table. The doctor said honestly, with your family's wealth, finding a suitable kidney isn't a problem. If we don't have the proper channels, there's the black market. But this isn't a problem of money. Doctor, can you think of something else? Chang Tian hesitated. How about we wake him up? It's not like he's in a coma, right? Chang Tian didn't really care about his father's well-being, but the problem was that his father didn't leave a will before he fainted. If his father passed away just like that, then he'd have to split the remaining assets with his brother. He wasn't willing to accept this. He'd invested a lot more time and effort into the company than his brother. Changi was only in charge of real estate and trade. Of course, These two industries were already highly profitable in the eyes of others, but Chang Tian was in charge of manufacturing. Compared to real estate and trade, electronic manufacturing, with a large industrial park, was the group's core industry. Even if the real estate and trade sectors were separated and given to Chang'e, it wouldn't hurt the group at all. But Chang Tian was afraid that his brother would fight for control of the industrial park. This was something Chang Tian didn't want to see, so he had to make his father wake up and leave a will. His father wasn't muddle-headed. He definitely didn't want to see the electronic industrial park he'd created split apart because of family infighting. The best solution was to leave the real estate and trade subsidiaries to Chang'e. He could also give Chang'e a portion of the electronic industrial park shares, but he wouldn't have the decision-making power, and the shares couldn't be sold at will. If he wanted to sell them, they could only be sold to him at market price. This was Chang Tian's plan. The conditions weren't too harsh, and he believed that his father would agree to his suggestion for the sake of the industrial park's prosperity. But if his father passed away just like that, Chang Tian couldn't guarantee that his brother wouldn't try to take over. Wake up. That's possible, but after he wakes up, he probably won't be able to make it. The doctor understood what Chang Tian meant, so he explained. Let me think about it. Chang Tian frowned. He didn't know if he'd have time to make a will the moment he woke up. As they were talking, the door to the ward was pushed open, and Chang'e, or Fatty Lai, rushed in. Good news, good news. Dad can be saved. Chapter 401. The non-mainstream girl, brother, Dad's saved. I found the elixir. Give it to him now. Fatty Lai was beyond excited, the fat on his body jiggling as he spoke with a cigar box in his hands. Chang'e, what do you mean saved? What elixir did you find? Chang Tian frowned. You didn't run into some scammer who gave you a pill of strength, did you? It's not a strength pill, nor a scammer. Fatty Lai shook his head. It's really something good. Brother, go get some warm water. I'll give it to Dad. Nonsense. What if Dad dies from it? Why are you bringing everything here? Chang Tian hemped coldly as he reached for the thing in Chang'e's hands. The doctor saw that it was a quarrel between the two brothers and didn't want to get involved. He turned to leave, but Chang Tian didn't seem to have any intention of letting him go. He pointed at him. The doctor is here. Ask him if that strength pill can be eaten as he pleases. The doctor was sweating profusely, not knowing how to answer Chang Tian's question. How could he just say something like that? Sure, the strength pill couldn't be eaten, but what if Fatty Lai managed to get some special medicine from a famous doctor? It was a difficult situation for him to handle. If he said no, and the medicine was proven to be effective, wouldn't he have to bear the responsibility? If he said yes, what if someone died from it? The doctor hesitated for a long time before replying. Everything has its risks, and not all elixirs are scammers. There are good ones as well. The ambiguity of not offending either side pissed Chang Tian off. Damn it, I gave you a red packet for nothing. All right, you can leave now. There's nothing for you to do here. Chang Tian waved his hand, shooing the doctor out. The doctor felt as if he'd been pardoned and quickly left the room. It was best if he didn't get involved in a battle between two brothers. What are you trying to do by making this pill? Do you want Dad to die immediately after eating it? Chang Tian's eyes widened, a cold smile on his face. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You just want Dad to die quickly so you can fight me for control of the industrial park, right? I'm telling you, that's impossible. I put a lot of effort into the industrial park. I'm 5 years older than you, and I've been working in the industrial park since I was 20 years old. I won't give it up so easily. Let me tell you, don't even think about it. Even if Dad wakes up, he will only give you 30% of the shares. The real estate and trade are yours. You better not get involved in the industrial park. I want Dad to die. Don't force me to say some things. I heard the conversation between you and the doctor from the door. Don't you want Dad to write you a will when he wakes up? Fatty Lai smiled coldly. Since you've already shed all pretense of cordiality, don't blame me for being impolite. I'll say it here. I'm giving Dad this pill because I want him to recover. As for that industrial park of yours, I'm not going to get involved. If Dad doesn't leave a will, I don't want it either. Just like you said, give me 30% of the shares, and I'll split up with the real estate and trading companies. Oh, Chang Tian paused, a trace of joy flashing through his eyes. All right, words alone are no proof. Let's write it down. Once I write it down and you sign it, you can give Dad whatever you want. I don't care anymore. It's a deal. Fatty Lie's eyes flashed with coldness. This brother of his was too heartless. He didn't care about his father's life or death at all. All he cared about was getting control of the industrial park. Chang Tian had a general outline of the contract in his mind, so it didn't take long for him to come up with one. For a veteran in the business world like him, it wasn't hard to come up with a strict contract in a short amount of time. At the same time, Fatty Lie wasn't stupid. He looked at the contract his brother had written for him, and there were no problems with it. He signed it right away. All right, do whatever you want. Chang Tian put away the contract in satisfaction, his face full of joy. Fatty Lie didn't care if his brother was cold-blooded or not. He quickly ran into the room and carefully put the pill into his father's mouth. He then melted it with some hot water and fed it to his father. Chang Tian stood on the side, recording the scene with his phone. He smiled coldly in his heart. If something really did happen to his father, this video would be enough to prove that Fatty Lie was the murderer. Even if it wasn't intentional, it was still a mistake. Forget about fighting for the inheritance. He'd be lucky if he didn't end up in jail. One had to say, Chang Tian was a very sinister man. He wasn't completely at ease after signing the contract, afraid that Fatty Lie would go back on his word. Fatty Lie waited on the side for the results after giving Elder Lie the pill, but the old man didn't seem to have any reaction at all. Chang Tian watched Fatty Lie's every move with a cold smile on his face. What kind of bullsh asterisk tea pill from God knows where could wake someone up? What kind of joke was this? Chang Tian didn't believe that such a stupid thing existed in this world. Ever since the old man had fallen unconscious, who knew how much money they'd spent to no avail? Naturally, Chang Tian didn't think that a miracle would happen. If you want to stay here, then stay here. I'm leaving. Lai Chang Tian had already gotten the result he wanted. It didn't matter if the old man woke up or not. If he was right, this pill would only bring harm to the old man. Who knew? The old man's wails would be heard the next day. Monday, Songshan's first school's entrance. A group of people stood in a neat formation, with Pin Liang and Zhou Ruoming among them. From the looks of it, they were welcoming someone, but what kind of person could make Pin Liang and Zhou Ruoming line up to welcome? If one looked closely, they'd realize that other than Pin Liang and Zhou Ruoming, the rest of the people in the group were all troublemakers in the school. They weren't as famous as the Big Four, but they were still famous people. For example, the 12th grade gangster Khan Xiaobo had run in a last time. Yudafa was standing in the group as well. An Audi TT slowly stopped in front of the school. The driver was a young girl with a pair of sunglasses on her delicate face. Her hair was combed to the side, and it was a very non-mainstream style. Welcome back to school, Feng Sis. Other than Pin Liang and Zhou Ruoming, the other students greeted and bowed when they saw the girl in the Audi. Chapter 402. The Last of the Big Four. It's the invincible beauty of the universe. Big Sis Xiao Xiao. The group sweated, but they repeated it anyway. Lil Sis Xiao Xiao is back. Zhou Ruoming and Pin Liang didn't really want to welcome Xiao Xiao, but they had no choice. They had to come. Xiao Xiao had only been in middle school for a month or so, but her name had spread far and wide. Even Zhou Ruoming and Pin Liang didn't dare mess with her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have become the fourth of the Big Four as a girl. The reason why she was the last of the Big Four wasn't because she wasn't strong. Quite the contrary. She was even fiercer than Pin Liang and Zhou Ruoming. Drinking, racing, fighting, and using knives in the first year. This fierce girl was the last because she was the youngest. Fortunately, Xiao Xiao left soon after and became a legend in the school. Otherwise, Zhou Ruoming and Pin Liang would have been crushed by her, being suppressed by a little girl. Where would their faces go? How could they endure this? It wasn't easy for the fierce girl to leave, and after a few years of freedom, Lin Yi came along and crushed them. But because of Lin Yi's existence, Zhou Ruoming and Pin Liang didn't mind Xiao Xiao's return at all. They really wanted to see what would happen when the fierce girl fought with Master Lin. Would the phone girl castrate Lin Yi with one slash? Zhou Ruoming and Pin Liang were looking forward to it. Why is it still you guys? Hasn't there been any strong characters in Songshan's first school these past few years? Xiao Xiao probed. There is, but he doesn't give a shit about us. I won't lie to you, Lil Sis Xiao Xiao. He took care of me and Liangzi, and Songshan's first school is his world now. No one dares do anything to him. Even his followers super strong. Zhou Ruoming didn't hesitate to belittle himself in order to make Lin Yi and Xiao Xiao fight, making Lin Yi sound so strong. I told him to come welcome Lil Sis Xiao Xiao, but he's busy hitting on girls and doesn't have time for us. Yudafa and the others looked at Zhou Ruoming with disdain. This guy didn't even tell Lin Yi he was just trying to drive a wedge between the two, but no one dared speak up for Lin Yi. They'd get on Lin Yi's good side, but they'd also offend Zhou Ruoming and Pin Liang. Lin Yi. Xiao Xiao frowned and took out a small phone from her pocket, showing a picture to Zhou Ruoming. Is this the person? Sister Xiao Xiao, do you know him? Zhou Ruoming looked at Xiao Xiao's phone. The person in the photo was Lin Yi. He's here. Xiao Xiao nodded, satisfied. Looks like I was right to come. This was really a case of walking all over the place in search of iron shoes, only to find it by chance without even looking. Xiao Xiao had been searching for Meng Yao and Lin Yi and Songshan like a net, but she couldn't find them. In the end, she accidentally showed her phone to a friend, and the friend recognized Meng Yao right away. It was the daughter of Pengzhan Industries chairman, studying in Songshan's first high. Xiao Xiao was speechless after hearing the answer. She was a transfer student from Songshan's first high, and she hadn't thought about going there before. She didn't expect to find them here. But it was no wonder, since Meng Yao and Yushu didn't go to Songshan's first high. Pengzhan was afraid that Meng Yao wouldn't know what was right and wrong, and that she'd become a spoiled little miss in his own school. So he sent her to a public middle school first, and then to Songshan's first high. And so, Xiao Xiao had never seen Meng Yao or Yushu before, much less Lin Yi, who just transferred here not too long ago. After hearing Xiao Xiao's words, Ruoming and Pin Liang were like two oppressed refugees who saw the light at the end of the tunnel. So Xiao Xiao was here to get even with Lin Yi? That was great. They couldn't do anything to Lin Yi, but Xiao Xiao could. Yeah, Lil Sis Xiao Xiao, do you have a grudge against him? Pin Liang asked. A grudge? Xiao Xiao blinked. Did she really have a grudge against Lin Yi? It was as if the conflict from before wasn't a grudge at all. She was looking for Lin Yi because she wanted to race Lin Yi. After being looked down on by Lin Yi, she felt a little indignant, but still said, I guess so. Zhou Ruoming and Pin Liang's faces lit up. With Xiao Xiao taking care of Lin Yi, they could just sit back and watch. Xiao Xiao locked the car and strutted into Songshan's first high, with Zhou Ruoming and Pin Liang following closely behind her. Tell me about Lin Yi, why don't you? He's hitting on girls? What girls? Xiao Xiao asked Zhou Ruoming and Pin Liang as they walked. Xiao Xiao was a little confused. Wasn't Lin Yi Meng Yao's bodyguard? How was he hitting on girls? Could it be that he was with Meng Yao? He's really close with the commoner beauty of our school, Tang Yin. She didn't come from here in middle school. She only came here in high school. Pin Liang said she's Ming Bro's latest target, but Lin Yi beat her to it. Oh, Xiao Xiao blinked, not expecting Lin Yi to really come to school to hit on girls, and it was Zhou Ruoming's target, too. She couldn't help but look at Zhou Ruoming to see what he had to say. Don't look at me like that. I can't beat him, Zhou Ruoming said hatefully. It was a little self-revealing, but he didn't want to hide it. The more he did, the more it showed Lin Yi's position as the king of the school. That was the only way Xiao Xiao could deal with him. Does anyone else in the school know about this? Xiao Xiao asked. There's probably no one who doesn't know about this. Announcing that Tang Yun is his woman in front of the dean. Lil Sis Xiao Xiao, this guy is even more powerful than you were back then. Pin Liang said. The dean didn't dare say anything. Oh, what's his background? Xiao Xiao was curious. Even if Meng Yao's father Pingzhan was a shareholder of the school, a bodyguard shouldn't be this cocky, right? Plus, if he was Meng Yao's bodyguard, why would she let him hit on girls? And let everyone know about it? Could it be that his relationship with Meng Yao was a secret? I don't know about his background, but I heard that he was a transfer student from a faraway village. But it doesn't seem like it. Pin Liang shook his head. He'd be an idiot if he still thought that Lin Yi was some country bumpkin. All right, I understand. Xiao Xiao nodded. It seemed like she needed to change her plan. She wanted to act a little flirtatious with Lin Yi in front of Meng Yao to give him some trouble, but that didn't seem to work now. Chapter 403. I'm here for Lin Yi. Xiao Xiao came looking for Lin Yi just to get back at him. How could a bodyguard be this strong? She just wanted to race with him, but he didn't even care and pushed her car to the side. This was a huge blow to the big sister's reputation. Jifeng jumped in shock when Xiao Xiao went to the dean's office to handle the registration. He'd received a call from Ding Bing Gong, saying that someone had arranged for a student to come in, but he didn't think that it would be Xiao Xiao. Jifeng knew Xiao Xiao's infamous name all too well. When she'd just entered middle school, she'd broken the balls of a young master who'd been trying to take advantage of her. And not long after that, she'd stabbed a gangster who'd tried to rob her from outside the school, heavily injuring him. Although neither of those things were Xiao Xiao's fault, and it wasn't her doing it on purpose, it was still a big deal. If it weren't for Bing Gong saying that someone was protecting her, she'd probably have been expelled already. Fortunately, Xiao Xiao only stayed here for a couple of days before getting bored. She didn't have any opponents, so she transferred schools. But Xiao Xiao's name was already spread far and wide. Be it Zhou Ruoming or Zhong Pingliang, they were both violent young masters, but they weren't as violent as Xiao Xiao. A girl stabbing someone with a knife wasn't something that could be measured with common sense. Plus, this girl seemed to have some background. She hadn't been expelled after these two incidents. So who would dare mess with her? Jifeng felt like his head was about to explode. There was nothing he could do about this Xiao Xiao. She'd lost all her authority as a dean, and one Lin Yi was enough to make him suffer. Now with this Xiao Xiao? Fortunately, Lin Yi didn't cause much trouble, only holding hands with girls in front of him. This Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, dared to stab people in front of him. Should he still be the dean? He might as well let Xiao Xiao be the dean. The students were more afraid of Xiao Xiao than they were of him. Xiao Xiao, welcome back, Jifeng said insincerely. The principal had already greeted her, so what else could a dean like him say? He could only go against his will and express his welcome. Mr. Wang, you don't seem to welcome me very much, do you? Xiao Xiao grinned at Jifeng. How can that be? Wang Jifeng smiled bitterly. He was a failure as the academic affairs dean. Hee, don't worry, Mr. Wang. I'm here to look for someone. I won't cause you any trouble. Xiao Xiao saw the bitter look on Jifeng's face and reassured him. Oh, looking for someone. Okay, which class do you want to go to? Wang Jifeng breathed a sigh of relief. If it was just looking for someone, it would be easy. Class. I don't know either, right? Do you know which class Lin Yi is in? Xiao Xiao asked suddenly. Lin Yi. Wang Jifeng was shocked. You're looking for him? Yeah, is there a problem? Xiao Xiao nodded, grumbling like a woman. I'm looking for him. I finally found him. I'll teach him a lesson. It was no wonder that Xiao Xiao was so agitated, searching the whole of Songshan only to find that Lin Yi was in her old school. Plop. Jifeng almost fainted when he heard Lin Yi's name. You're looking for Lin Yi? Yeah, what's the problem? Xiao Xiao asked. Nothing. Jifeng waved his hand helplessly and sighed. He helped Xiao Xiao with the school registration, but he was wondering why Xiao Xiao was looking for Lin Yi. Judging from her expression, it was as if Lin Yi dumped her. Was she here to get back together with Lin Yi? But what about Tang Yun? Could it be the legendary love triangle? Jifeng felt a headache coming on. It seemed like he'd have to worry about this in the future. Lin Yi and Xiao Xiao were together. It was up to the heavens. After the registration was done, Feng brought Xiao Xiao to the entrance of the 12th grade's Class 5. He nodded to the homeroom teacher and personally sent Xiao Xiao into the classroom. Let me introduce a new classmate to everyone, Xiao Xiao. Everyone, please give her a round of applause. Other than Pinliang and Xiaofu, no one else knew about Xiao Xiao. It was too long ago, and most of the students in the class were only in high school. They didn't know much about Xiao Xiao, but the boys in the class were getting excited. One had to admit that Xiao Xiao's sweet appearance was quite deceiving. If they didn't know about her bad reputation, they'd think that she was a cute little girl. She had the potential to become a school beauty on par with Meng Yao, Yu Shu, and Tang Yin. That was the boys' first impression. Hello, everyone. Please take care of me. Xiao Xiao smiled sweetly. Pin Liang felt goosebumps all over his body. Coming from Xiao Xiao's mouth, it was very suspicious. Xiao Xiao was pretty, but he didn't have any feelings for her. Getting his balls broken wasn't something to be messed with. Xiao Xiao, you sit here. The teacher was trying to arrange a seat for Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao wasn't tall, so the teacher wanted to get her a seat closer to the front. The students who transferred here at this time were usually here to study and prepare for their final exams, and this Xiao Xiao was sent here by the dean himself. She had to have some sort of background. No need, I'll find my own seat. Xiao Xiao didn't wait for the teacher to finish and walked to the last row of the class. Lenny frowned. He felt that this Xiao Xiao looked familiar, and now that she was walking towards him, he remembered something. This girl, wasn't she the Audi TT girl he met at the food street the other day? She wasn't dressed up as exaggeratedly today, much cuter than that day. But if he looked closely, he could still recognize her. Chapter 404. Chapter 404. Bulsh asterisk. This instincts told him that Xiao Xiao wasn't here for anything good. The girl was sweet and cute, but he didn't want to piss her off. He'd be in a lot of trouble if he did. You? Xiao Xiao was pissed off at Lin Yi's words. She was a super beautiful girl in the universe, wasn't she? Why was she being called an idiot by this guy? Kong Xiaobo, who was sitting in front of Lin Yi, had heard Xiao Xiao's words. He was envious of Lin Yi's luck with women, but Lin Yi's mocking words almost made him faint. This guy really didn't know how to take care of women. What about me? If you're here to study, then do whatever you want, but if you're here for something else, don't blame me for kicking you down the stairs. Lin, he said faintly. I've already stepped on 2 of the big 4. I don't mind stepping on another one. It wasn't as if he didn't see what happened at the school gates this morning. In fact, the leader of the 12th year, Yudafa, had informed him about the return of the last of the big 4, but he wasn't interested in going to greet the big 4. Whoever wanted to go kiss his ass could go. He didn't want to go anyway. What he didn't expect was that the last of the big 4 was a girl, and the one he'd met at the food street at that time. And so he didn't care about her at all. You know, Xiao Xiao didn't expect Yi to know her identity already. I took a look at you from the window. Lin Yi's phone vibrated, and Yi frowned. Stop wasting time. I'll check my messages. Xiao Xiao was furious at Lin Yi's disregard. She'd never been looked down on like this before. She raised her heels and tried to step on Lin Yi's foot, but Lin Yi's eyes didn't even blink as he looked at the text. But before Xiao Xiao's foot could land on his foot, he retreated, crack. A crisp cracking sound accompanied Xiao Xiao's startled gasp. Xiao Xiao's heel had completely broken from using too much force. Xiao Xiao's face was red with anger as she glared at Lin Yi, but Lin Yi acted like nothing had happened, still looking at his text as if he hadn't heard anything. Could it be a coincidence? Lin Yi didn't dodge on purpose? Xiao Xiao was confused. Wait. Xiao Xiao reacted abruptly. Even if this guy didn't see it, surely he didn't hear the sound of the heel breaking? Wasn't he curious at all? There was only one possibility. He did it on purpose. He'd dodged on purpose before, and now he was pretending not to hear it. Xiao Xiao was so pissed that she wanted to snatch Lin Yi's phone away. But Yi raised his hand slightly, as if he was going to send a message, avoiding Xiao Xiao's hand. It was a text from Yushu. Yao Yao asked me to ask you, why are you messing around again? Did someone come looking for you? Yi smiled bitterly. It seemed that Meng Yao and Yushu didn't recognize Xiao Xiao, as the person they'd met at the food street that day. He replied, "She's here to get even with me, but it's because I accompanied you guys to the food street." Food street? Meng Yao frowned as she looked at Yushu's phone. What food street? What does Lin E hitting on girls have to do with food street? Oh, I think I remember. Yushu slapped her forehead in realization. Yao Yao, do you remember when there was a delinquent girl blocking our car at the food street, and Shield Bro pushed their car out of the way? You're talking about the Audi TT? Meng Yao tried her best to recall it. It seemed like it was the same Xiao Xiao today, just dressed differently. Yeah, that's her. Yushu nodded. So it's Shield Bro. Yao Yao, what we do? What else can we do? Just ignore her. Since it's not Lin E messing around, we don't need to care. Meng Yao said nonchalantly. Oh, right. We'll take care of Shield Bro when he's messing around. Yushu said in agreement. Messing around has nothing to do with us. It's not like he's your boyfriend. What's the rush? Meng Yao glared at Yushu. Oh, it depends on Yao Yao if he's my boyfriend or not. Yushu stuck her tongue out. What the hell are you talking about? Meng Yao raged. Open your mouth. ? Yushu blinked, but opened her mouth obediently. Ah! Meng Yao reached for Yushu's mouth. Ow! It hurts. Yao Yao, why did you pull my tongue out? It hurts, let go. Yushu cried out in pain. I'll pull your tongue out so you don't talk nonsense all the time. Meng Yao, naturally, wouldn't actually pull her tongue out. She was just trying to scare her. I won't do it again. I won't talk nonsense anymore. It hurts, Yao Yao, you really did it, it hurts. Yushu covered her mouth, almost crying. Lin, he put his phone back in his pocket before turning to Xiao Xiao. What are you doing? Are you ADHD? Hey, is Meng Yao jealous? Xiao Xiao might look violent on the outside, but she was actually a very sensitive person. She looked at Meng Yao after Lin E sent the text, and saw that Meng Yao had lowered her head. She knew that Meng Yao was reading the text. No, she doesn't like me. Lin E said faintly, you don't need to think about all this dirty stuff, it's useless. Lin E looked at Xiao Xiao's eyes and guessed what she was thinking. Dirty stuff? Say whatever you want, but teach me how to drive, or I'll tell everyone about your relationship with Meng Yao. Xiao Xiao didn't care about Lin Yi's threat at all. She turned it around and threatened Lin Yi. Do what you want. What other people don't know can only affect Meng Yao. It doesn't matter to me at all. Lin Yi shrugged. I don't care if you're willing to make an enemy out of yourself, but don't think that Meng Yao's a pushover. She's got a Yushu with her, and she's even stronger than you are. You be dead before you know it. Xiao Xiao glared at Lin Yi hatefully. Her threat didn't work, so she could only give up. She'd never met Yushu in person before, but she'd heard of her name a long time ago. Her brother was the head of the Songshan 4, and he was way higher than her, a big 4. Xiao Xiao didn't want to provoke someone like that unless she had a huge grudge against him. She wanted to scare Lin Yi into submission, but he didn't care. Chapter 405. Giving you advice. She's been wanting to kick me out for a long time, but did I? Lin Yi looked at Xiao Xiao like she was an idiot. Her dad's the one paying my salary, not her. Can you stop asking stupid questions like that in the future? Just tell me, are you going to teach me how to race or not? Xiao Xiao humphed. I don't know how to race. Lin Yi shook his head. I just got my license this month. Take a look if you don't believe me. With that, Lin Yi took out his license and put it in front of Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao was speechless. She looked at the date on the license. It really was this month, but she didn't believe what Lin Yi was saying. You didn't need a license to drive. All right, Lin Yi, we'll see. Xiao Xiao said hatefully. Lin Yi didn't take Xiao Xiao's words seriously at all. After the first class, Xiao Xiao called Pin Liang out of the classroom. Lil sis Xiao Xiao, how's it going? Did you deal with that Lin Yi guy? Pin Liang was actually even more anxious than Xiao Xiao. He wanted to ask Xiao Xiao if there was any progress, but he didn't dare to just go look for her if she didn't want to. Now that Xiao Xiao was looking for him, naturally he had to ask. It's not that easy. This guy doesn't listen to reason or force. Xiao Xiao said hatefully. Do you know what his weakness is? I'm not too sure. Pin Liang thought. If he knew what his weakness was, he wouldn't be waiting for her to take care of him. He'd take care of him myself. Then do you think there's anything we can use to blackmail Lin Yi? Xiao Xiao continued. Blackmail. Pin Liang blinked, not understanding why Xiao Xiao was blackmailing Lin Yi and not teaching Lin Yi a lesson. Lil sis Xiao Xiao, why are you blackmailing him? To achieve a goal, of course. Why are you asking so many questions? Do you know or not? Xiao Xiao frowned impatiently, evidently not wanting to talk about this topic with Pin Liang. If you're talking about blackmail, I can't think of anything right now. Maybe I'll go back and think about it, then talk to you? Pin Liang hesitated for a long time, unable to come up with a reason. All right, go back then. Xiao Xiao was speechless. How come Miss Pin Liang didn't know anything? Naturally, she didn't put her hopes on Pin Liang coming up with a solution. It seemed like she couldn't count on him. Boss, what's wrong with her? Kong Xiaobo looked at Lin Yi with some doubt and asked in a low voice. Who knows? She's crazy. I met her once at the food street. She used her car to block my car. I pushed her away, and she asked me to teach her how to race. Lin Yi explained, feeling speechless. I see, but boss, you're quite lucky with women. Kong Xiaobo said enviously. Why aren't there any beautiful girls looking for me? You want me to tell Fun, don't you? Lin Yi asked with a smile. Don't tell her. I'm just fantasizing. Kong Xiaobo quickly shook his head. Right, boss. Why didn't you ask me if my parents said anything about Fun after I went back yesterday? If you told them about the company first, they might have stopped asking about Fun. And if you hadn't, you wouldn't have been able to separate from Fun under the circumstances yesterday. So there's no point in telling them. Lin Yi analyzed with a smile. Boss, you're the boss. You hit the nail on the head. I told them about the company yesterday, and they really didn't care about me and Finn anymore. Kong Xiaobo nodded, a little excited, but boss, I spent the whole night reading business management books, and I'm still confused. There's a lot of technical terms I don't understand. If you could learn everything in one night, then the world would be full of entrepreneurs. Lin Yi shook his head. You have to do things step by step. You can't get fat in one bite. That's true, I was too impatient. Kong Xiaobo agreed. The main problem now is getting into college. It'd be best if Finn goes to the same school as you. I wonder how she's doing. Lin Yi suggested. I haven't asked about that. How about this? I'll text her later and ask her what she thinks, Kong Xiaobo said. As the two were talking, Xiao Xiao walked in, and Kong Xiaobo gave Lin Yi an ambiguous smile before turning his head away. Xiao Xiao went back to class, thinking about how she could teach Lin Yi a lesson and get him to teach her how to drive, but she couldn't think of anything at the moment. All she could do was stop messing with Lin Yi and stay in a cold war with Lin Yi. She ignored Lin Yi, and Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't talk to her either. He was happy to be at peace. Xiao Xiao was thinking about what she could use to blackmail Lin Yi. Her plan to use Meng Yao and Lin Yi's relationship as a bargaining chip had failed. She could tell that Lin Yi really didn't care, so she had to think of something else. Her phone vibrated in her pocket as she thought about it. She took it out and was surprised to see that it was a text from Pin Liang. Lil sis Xiao Xiao, I discussed it with Gao Xiaofu. If you want to blackmail Lin Yi, you can go to the bathroom and take a few pictures of him. Is that okay? Xiao Xiao's eyes lit up after reading the text. This was a good idea. All right, go ahead. Lin Yi smiled. Okay, go ahead. Me? Pin Liang didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at the text in his hand. Would I let you go if I dare to do that? If I went to the bathroom and took pictures of Lin, wouldn't Lin Yi beat me to death? I don't dare. I'm scared of getting beaten up, but I can keep a lookout for you. Pin Liang replied like a gangster, making Xiao Xiao grit her teeth. It seemed like she'd have to do it herself. If Lin Yi didn't give in, she'd threaten him and send his pictures to Meng Yao and Yushu, as well as that commoner beauty. Let's see how embarrassed he'd be then. Men were thick-skinned in certain situations, but Xiao Xiao didn't believe that Lin Yi would be shameless enough to let girls see him pee. Yes, it's decided. Xiao Xiao swung her fist in the air as she made up her mind. The class passed, and Lin Yi didn't go to the bathroom. Xiao Xiao, who'd prepared herself, was a little troubled. Another class passed, and Lin Yi still didn't go to the bathroom. Xiao Xiao was even more troubled. Lin Yi, why aren't you drinking water? Why would I drink water? Plus, what does it have to do with you whether I drink water or not? Aren't you being too nosy? Lin Yi looked at Xiao Xiao annoyed. Chapter 406. You're the one who's sick. Oh, but Lin Yi didn't believe that Xiao Xiao would be so nice as to remind him to drink water when it was hot. Plus, couldn't he drink water himself if it was hot? Did he need someone to remind him? Xiao Xiao's words did make Lin Yi a little thirsty. He reached into his desk and pulled out an empty bottle. He'd finished the water he'd bought yesterday. Here. Xiao Xiao quickly handed her drink to Lin Yi, waiting for Lin Yi to take it. Question mark. Lin Yi was starting to think that there was something wrong with this Xiao Xiao. She had to be hiding something. Ugh. Xiao Xiao felt that she was being too friendly, and it was normal for Lin Yi to be suspicious. We're desk mates, after all. My teacher said that desk mates should help each other out. Lin Yi would be an idiot to believe her bullshit, but he was indeed thirsty. He took the bottle from Xiao Xiao and was about to open it when he realized that the cap was unscrewed. Lin Yi frowned. Xiao Xiao wouldn't have done something to the drink, would she? She wouldn't do something that tasteless, would she? Xiao Xiao blushed when she saw Lin Yi's hesitation. I had a sip this morning. Lin Yi was speechless. No wonder the cap was unscrewed. But it wasn't that easy to harm him. Ever since he started practicing the art of dragon mastery, Lin Yi's sense of smell and taste had gotten even sharper. He could even detect poisons in food and water. Are you sick? Hepatitis B or AIDS? Lin Yi asked as he took Xiao Xiao's drink. Xiao Xiao was so pissed off that her organs almost exploded. She had hepatitis B and AIDS? What kind of joke was that? She was a pretty girl, wasn't she? If someone else were to drink the water he'd taken a sip from, they'd probably go crazy fighting for it. And this Lin Yi was being so picky, asked some strange questions. Of course, this was under the assumption that people didn't know Xiao Xiao's personality. If they did, they wouldn't even dare drink her water. Wouldn't that be suicidal? You're the one who's sick. Xiao Xiao exploded. Illiterate. Haven't you read the science reports? Even if there are hepatitis B and AIDS, they can't spread like this. Oh. Lin Yi smiled faintly. He didn't expect this chick to know so much. He opened the bottle and secretly tasted it with his tongue. When he found that there was no difference, he swallowed it. He drank half of it and stuffed the remaining half directly into the desk. I've drunk it. You don't want it anymore? Give me the rest. Xiao Xiao wasn't planning on drinking anything that Lin Yi had drunk from. How could she keep drinking something that had been drunk from another boy? However, Lin Yi's words made her very indignant. He had clearly drunk her drink, yet he was still so arrogant and took the rest as his own. Wasn't this too shameless? No, I'm thirsty. Xiao Xiao wasn't going to let Lin Yi have his way. She grabbed the bottle from his desk and twisted the cap open, chugging the rest of the bottle down her throat before glaring at Lin, panting. She almost choked to death. Lin Yi didn't know what to say. Lin Yi didn't really know what to do with this rebellious girl, but he didn't want to argue with her. If she wanted to drink it, then drink it. As long as she didn't cry and puke like the Miss, Xiao Xiao didn't think much of it when she drank it, but she regretted it after. How could she drink something that Lin Yi had drunk from? Her first kiss. Just you wait. I'll show you when you need to pee. Xiao Xiao was different from the Mississippi. She didn't like it, but she wouldn't dwell on it. She was just a little annoyed. He tossed the empty bottle into the trash can at the corner of the classroom, only for it to land on Pin Liang's head with a loud bang. Ah! Pin Liang screamed as he stood up, gritting his teeth. Motherfucker, who was it? Who threw it? Do you want to die? Do you want to die? Pin Liang was forced to switch seats by Lin Yi, and he sat in the right corner of the classroom. The trash can was not far behind him. There were always lazy students who didn't want to get up to throw the trash, so they just threw it high up in the air. But now that Pin Liang sat there, no one dared to throw it. It wouldn't be a joke if they hit the third of the big four. Lin Yi threw it. Xiao Xiao rolled her eyes as she pointed at Lin Yi. She wanted to cause a conflict between Lin Yi and Pin Liang, causing some trouble for Lin Yi. If she admitted that she threw it, Pin Liang would probably just sit back down and swallow his grievance. What? Pin Liang paused, the anger on his face frozen. He felt a little awkward. She wanted him to cause trouble for Lin Yi. He didn't dare do that. Someone as strong as Heibao Bro was crippled by Lin Yi, and his only hope was Zhang Naipeo. Before Naipeo came back, he wouldn't start a conflict with Lin Yi. Pin Liang put away his anger and said awkwardly, "It's fine." His anticlimactic performance was a little embarrassing, but it was better than getting beaten up. He'd been beaten up by Lin Yi a couple of times already, and he'd lost face in front of his classmates. One more time wouldn't make much of a difference. "I didn't throw it. If it were me, I wouldn't have thrown an empty bottle. Your head would have burst open a long time ago." Lin Yi said faintly. Pin Liang paused. Lin Yi's words were arrogant, but Pin Liang didn't doubt the veracity of Lin Yi's words at all. Lin Yi had no reason to lie to him. There were many situations where Lin Yi didn't have a reason to teach him a lesson. He could have just sent him flying with his chair. So, if Lin Yi said it wasn't him, then it definitely wasn't him. As long as it wasn't Lin Yi, what was there for Pin Liang to be afraid of? His anger flared up again. Who? Who is it? Come out now, or you'll be dead if I find out. Pin Liang's behavior made everyone in the class look down on him. He lost his temper when he heard that it was Lin Yi, but now that Lin Yi said it wasn't him, he was starting to get angry again. But even so, the students didn't dare say anything. After all, Pin Liang didn't dare do anything to Lin Yi, but that didn't mean he wouldn't do the same to other people. Yao Yao, who threw the bottle just now? Did you throw it? Yushu spoke up at that moment, but she purposely raised her voice so that Pin Liang could hear her. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.